All right, so you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think Adir is going to be showing, and Hale obviously isn't. So I pinged um, Attila or Seraph and haven't heard back, so they probably won't be as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll finish up from last week. We just need to do missions, and I think you're both familiar with what we need to do, but just describe a mission that you were on against or involving one of the corps, at least one of the corps in the list, and then the person on your left, who will just be the other person, will then describe how. Well, first you'll describe it, and then they'll describe how they were involved in that mission, and then we'll go around the table to the right, which again is just the other person, and they'll do the same, and they'll describe a mission, and the other person will describe how they were involved.
Yeah, so mine was just a like hacking mission that East Dragon Coalition had me do. With me and like my group of hackers in the network that I'm in. Um, and it was more like a bigger thing that needed some infiltration. So um, we had a man who goes
Yeah,
by
I
the nickname
guess this part of EBC's plan was to conquer the cyberspace first, and I'm basically thinking of my end of the bargain is that I sort of give you guys guns by infiltrating a different corporation.
Okay, so you like we ran a mission on like a different corp to like gear up for the one that I posed.
You like belong to a gang, right? Is it the,
It's not like a gang, it's just like a group of hackers. They're not the most combat heavy folk.
well, I guess you guys still need guns. so
Yeah. We
So
also could have
then,
just gotten us into the area where we needed to do business.
okay, so the first mission, this being Trashman's, is against which corp?
Apex systems.
Okay. And you did a preliminary mission, which is Whisper's mission, to prepare for that mission. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so.
no, I'm gonna get him guns to do it.
Yeah, but I have to
So,
be like involved in yours as well because there's only two
oh,
of us.
all right.
Right. And
Oh,
basically,
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, in let me think about how to say this. In in your own mission, you need to have like a main or leading role in it, but then you need to have some incorporation in the other mission as well. So each of you are somehow leading or heavily like the main core part of your own mission, and the other person can have whatever role related to that. But when it comes to your mission, yeah, you need to have a main role in that.
So let's make it like a sort of a deal between the White Tigers and EDC. You give us like the financial data, and then basically my mission is I give you guys guns because let's just say the White Tiger needs them, and I would infiltrate some weapons company, manufacturing company.
Okay, so each player describes and introduces their character to the group. Each player will tell everyone about the job. So you'll describe the job, describe your character's role in the job, and the name of the corp you're trying the job against. You should play a leading role, either in charge of the entire operation or providing a critical skill around which the mission was based. This is your chance to show off a little. And then I will start a countdown clock for that corporation. And then the player to your left will tell you how their character was involved, and you take a +1 link with the first character. And that'll also advance that corporation's clock. And then that's it.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
how I would be involved if we're like making this trade. I don't know. If, like, I'm kind of confused.
So yeah, I mean, definitely, you both need to be involved in this mission, But I'm thinking it sounds like you were making a run against Apex Systems, but to do that, you found that you needed something else, so you needed to run a preliminary mission, and probably both of you were somehow involved in that, in getting that, whatever it was that you needed.
Yeah, I guess it might be confusing because I don't remember Whisper's background with EDC.
It's basically owned by them because of my cyberware.
Okay, so you're owned by EDC, and all right. How did EDC? Okay, so Trashman's mission is against Apex Systems.
Yeah, but I was working for EDC, so like we're kind of both working for this.
Okay, so you were doing it for EDC against Apex, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, Whisper, you are owned by EDC, so probably if EDC was running the mission against Apex, they provided you as a resource, or you were like basically a resource that they tasked to help with this. In finding that out, maybe you realized that there was some system that you couldn't get into unless you had this other thing from another corp, so you needed to run a preliminary mission against that corp, and this kind of was an extension of that mission. So it's still a mission you both were involved in because you were both hired on to do that, but it ends up being Whisper's mission because you know exactly what it is you need to go after, and you coordinated and led that mission. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, starting with yours, with Trashman's, and I'm going to start referring to you by those names, Whisper and Trashman. That's one of the agenda items for the Sprawl is I should be referring to you to your characters, not the player. So I will be doing that. Should I do Trashman or should I do name?
No, the code name is fine.
Okay. All right. So for Trashman, your mission, that was against Apex Systems. So I'm starting their clock. It's not advanced yet, although after you ran the mission, it did advance one. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and advance that now. Once it cooperates a little. Oh, I have to be on a different layer. That's why. Okay, so let me think about this. All right, so I'm going to advance Apex Systems by one. So you're at 1500 with Apex Systems, which means they're vaguely aware of you. Do you both know about these clocks?
Not what each one means, but
Okay, it's kind of an abstraction of just how aware they are. It's like if you're not on their clock, then they don't know you exist and you have nothing to worry about. But as you come on their radar, you get more and more notice. At 1500, they just kind of have noticed you maybe some entries in a log, or maybe they're aware that there's this group doing something and they're maybe starting to keep a little bit of tabs on you, but not much. At 1800, you'll have much more notice, and they'll be kind of keeping tighter tabs on you. Once you hit 2100, they're kind of aware of who you are, and they might start actively thinking about trying to do something just to keep you from affecting their business. And the higher it goes, the more extreme that notice is. If you get to zero, it's pretty much guaranteed that they're coming after you in some way. So you're going to be sleeping in safe houses trying to avoid notice, or else they're going to have strike teams coming in your windows, that type of situation. So right now you're just barely on their notice after this mission. Okay, so you're running a mission against Apex Systems. You're running it for EDC, and in doing that, they provided this infiltrator, Whisper, and that's how the two of you first acquainted.
yeah.
Okay, so describe that mission briefly, or however much you want.
So I was just kind of thinking that like because my character's a hacker and like is in this group of hackers, we're probably stealing some sort of like consumer data or like valuable demographics or marketing or things like that for EDC, since they're trying to like infiltrate and everything. That would be something that's valuable for them. Um, so they gave us this infiltrator to get the team in there, so we could like hack into it and steal all the stuff and get us out.
Okay.
But is this like his? This is like generally more of my mission, right? Or
Which one? Sorry. Okay, so that's
the first
Whisper.
one?
So the first chronological mission is more yours, but right now he's describing the mission against Apex that yours was a prelude to. So in the process of actually doing that mission, probably you had done some level of research, or you found out somehow, or maybe ETC provided this information, but to get in you would need some key piece that you didn't have access to, and you would have to get that from some other corp. So that's going to be something that you need to kind of roll into both of these. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Why can't I find what I'm looking for? Sorry, I'm trying to find a... It's missing. Of course it is. Okay, I'm just going to do a new one. Alright, so first mission is against Apex for EDC. So I need you to give some description of what, like, so you were going after something, and maybe you just don't know what it was. EDC gave you a package to be aiming at, or something to retrieve. Was it data, you said? Since they hired you as a hacker and you were the core of that, I guess it would probably be...
I said, like consumer data, demographics, like marketing data, and things that they could use to expand their corporation, since that's what they're all about.
Okay, so they sent you in to get that, and... So do you want me to lay this out? Because, I mean, I'm kind of waiting for a cue from you, but if you want, I'll just...
I'm not sure what else you need, so I guess so.
Okay. Then I'm going to say that to get that data, it wasn't as easy as just using the net to go in. You had to go on site. They have an enclosed system, and you had to actually get on site and inside to access their internal subnet. And you did that. To do that, they provided you with a few assets, one of which was Whisper, an infiltrator, who accompanied you on this. In prepping for this mission, Whisper had found that what did he need? What did you need that you didn't already have, that you needed to get from some other corp? It could be some... Go ahead.
I guess credentials to get in the reception. I need to like have a role to set up a meeting.
Yeah, why would another corp have that?
Why would another corp have that?
So maybe Apex Systems has some type of new encryption created by another megacorp, and you didn't immediately... There wasn't an easy way to get you in fast, and you knew that if you got this other thing from the other corp, some algorithm that allowed you to either backdoor that algorithm, and this could be entrance codes to the facility, or this could be something you needed from the hacking perspective, either or. But you needed something that you needed to access something, and you knew that it would take too long if you didn't get this other thing first. So you had to get whatever the other thing was, and that was from another corp. Maybe it's a backdoor. Maybe that corp had created the algorithm to begin with. So maybe you were just stealing the specs so that you would be able to back or reverse engineer it, and something along those lines.
Is the White Tiger? Where is Apex again, locationally? Geographically.
Oh, so my notes disappeared. Hold on, let me look at my other...
Pretty sure you like West Coast.
I think Miami was a subsidiary, but there's also West Coast influence. Let's see, one note.
And White Tiger is also from the West Coast? Or no?
Sorry, I missed. What is White Tiger?
I put all of that in the chat there. That's the name of the hacking network.
Oh, okay, I didn't read that. Let me go read
Yeah,
that.
that was like the description of the job
Oh, I
did.
see.
They're like located like in the Sprawl where the 13 would be.
Tested with breaking into Apex Systems network and stealing their consumer data. Their group had never tackled the bombs. So they knew. Okay, so was it just you and Whisper, or was there a full team involved in this?
Yeah, there's 4 of us in total, so they were stealing like probably a lot of data.
Okay, and you were the only one that was Matrix focused. Were the others like focused on the physical, like getting you in?
Yeah, there were like different like specialties like getting doors open or um, um, like security systems or each person had their own job. But yeah, my guy's more like Matrix focused.
Right. Okay. And hold on. So in the group that you're in, let me add this over here. Sorry. This should be on the map layer. Sorry, Roll20 is very fiddly. I'm just trying to get a box to show up here. Come on. Okay, move this to the token layer. Okay. So other players. Let's see, tokens. Oh. We've got the White Tigers. The White Tigers. All right. So they are. How are you involved? Let's see. So you're involved in the White Tigers. Are they a localized group to whatever area you're in, or is this a large distribution of?
In the 13, I said like he'd be in the main Sprawl.
Got it. Okay. All right. And this is just a group that you're part of. You didn't start it, but you're a member of it.
Yeah, I don't know if like being the Matrix guy would make him the leader, but it seems like the more of the heavy lifting, I suppose.
Okay. My guess is if it's a network of hackers, I mean, you're not necessarily the leader unless you are the leader.
Yeah,
but
maybe we just don't have one.
Yeah. Maybe you don't have a.
Like a small gang like that is more of like a fixer thing, anyways. So.
Right. I mean, I think this is just more of an organization that you are involved with, but you don't have access to them yet unless you declare certain individuals of those as a contact, and you can declare them as a contact at some point, definitely.
Cool.
But I would assume that most of them, if not all of them, are hackers of some sort, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's like all they do, so that's why we needed like help specifically.
Right. Now, did East Dragon Coalition approach the White Tigers, or did they approach Trashman?
I guess the White Tigers. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so as well, just because they would have more renown than just this kid.
Right. So at this point, he's not necessarily well known.
No, and he doesn't really want to be at this point. He doesn't like. I was looking at the rep thing, the rep move, and I don't think that's something that he would take at this point.
Okay. All right. So EDC approached the White Tigers. They threw you under the bus. they basically gave you their contact information. You were in touch with EDC in the negotiations on that. You ended up getting a team formed around you. Did they provide all the other 3 resources, the other 3 members of that team? Or was Whisper the only one from EDC directly?
Well, I would assume that the other 3 hackers were with me, so it would be more like a 5-man group for that one.
So the entire group went in on this?
Right. Yeah. Like I was saying, like one guy like is good at getting like doors open or like security or alarms or something. Like everyone was there playing a part.
Okay. Okay. And then Whisper was provided as an infiltrator, which that's also kind of his specialty, is getting you in, not necessarily as a hacking means, but in other means. Were all five?
There might have been like another Matrix person there with me as well.
Okay, so physically on site. I'm sure that you had the rest of them as support, but on site you had one of the others, so two hackers.
Yeah, I never imagined it being offsite.
Okay, so no off-site support, just the two hackers on site, you and another from the White Tigers, and then Whisper as an infiltrator, and one other
Sure. Yeah.
person provided by ETC, probably someone who's muscle of some sort.
Okay.
Plan B.
Yeah, exactly. Which it always falls back.
Oh,
Are you there, James?
Sorry, I muted. Shoot.
That's okay.
Okay, let me try that again. When did I mute? I guess I just hit the button. Okay, so sorry. Once things come out of my mouth, they're out of my brain. I gotta rewind.
You were just saying, just finished up with the saying the muscle guy was there.
Right. Okay. So when you were preparing for this job, you learned that there was something that you needed beyond what you already had that you had to get from another corp. Was that a physical something, or was that a matrix? Or yeah, I guess we'll call it the matrix. Matrix type something.
I like the idea that he said about like some sort of credentials or like login, and that would also give me a reason to be there.
maybe produce some fake identifications or something.
What about
Then
something
type
like
system.
they've got a new login system that is like bleeding edge, and you didn't necessarily know the best ways to hack through it, so you needed to go to the corp that had designed and provided it and get the specs of that system so that you could reverse engineer and find a way to log in without notice.
Yeah, that works too.
Does that make sense, or do you not want to go that direction?
Makes sense.
I basically just needed a way in, like data-wise. I gotta play like with their database of who I am.
Okay. Okay, so and which megacorp did that come from? What did you need to get, and who provided that?
I want to say the White Tigers created like fake IDs, and then they sort of hacked into the system and made it so that my ID card or something would work. Like I appear on their computers.
Right. Well, so we've got to somehow make this another mission, your mission against another corp to get whatever it is that you need to get in there. So if it's the White Tigers, there's no reason to go against another corp.
Oh.
All right. We basically need something that the White Tigers wouldn't have been able to do. So again, like if it was some sort of new system, a prototype system that no one really knew that they knew how to break through or not, and you had to go get specs to figure out how to break into it, or maybe there's physical security and you had to get some way of bypassing something physical. Maybe they have a new prototype turret system and you had to find a way to get into their friend and foe code to make sure that they didn't target you as something. We need something that there's something you would have not been able to bypass and you had to go to another corp to either make it possible or make it easier.
Maybe the 13 have like a sort of like splicing mechanism that they made to, since they're kind of anti-corps themselves, to break into them.
Whatever you just did, fix your sound. Sorry, you were completely muffled. It sounded like you were talking to a pillow, but now you sound good.
I was saying maybe the freedom fighters, like the 13, like since they're anti-corp, had some sort of like splicing or physical hacking device that would shut down turrets and things like that.
But you were going to attack them to get that?
I was just posing it as an option since we needed a corporation to go against.
Right. But so this is a corporation that you are explicitly running a separate mission against, and you're going to increase their notice of you. If it's the 13, that means you're getting on their bad side by doing this. This isn't something that someone's providing through a contact means. This is something that you're stealing.
Yeah.
Oh, so we can make a new one?
That's also what I was saying at the beginning of the session. Like,
So I guess I had to infiltrate a weapons company, a security company
so
that would provide
shut
hardware.
off the,
So maybe. So if Saifu is training in Skillsofts, we could transition that to security technology type. Like some kind of. Actually, that makes sense. Saifu sounds similar to Cypher, which is a means of securing something. We could make that a technology security company. Does that sound okay?
more like weapons personally, since we have like logistics, AI, and robotics. So we have a lot of things like that.
Okay, so if it's weapons, then it's going to be related to some physical security, right?
Yeah, I was saying like maybe like even something to shut off like the physical security in there, like lasers or turrets or something like that.
Okay, so we should change Saifu to weapons. Just weapons, or like weapons and something else?
I don't know. What do you think, Shane?
I guess a general security firm.
So weapons and security, or just security?
I mean, you could generalize security to have weapons.
Right. I mean, the question is, are they a major weapons provider? Are you going to have Saifu hand pistols of some sort? Are there going to be branded weapons that they produce, or are they only a security company?
I think weapons falls underneath that.
Yeah,
Sorry,
well, weapons.
you're super quiet again.
I think weapons falls underneath that.
Okay. So just security? I can barely hear you, I'm sorry. So just security?
I said I think weapons falls underneath that.
Right. So underneath, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean it should be a weapons company, or it should be a security company, or a security and weapons? So if weapons falls beneath that, beneath what?
Under the term security.
Okay. So they are just a security company. And because of that, they also produce weaponry. That's what you mean?
Yeah, maybe they have a subsidiary or something.
Right. I'm sure they have divisions. But typically, like security would imply that they are more about the manpower behind security and not necessarily production of weaponry, but they can do both. So actually, let's just say security and weapon manufacturer. Okay. So Saifu is now security and weapon. Do you want to keep that name, or do we just want to make a whole new corp?
Can't think of a better name for a weapon right now. Security and weapon.
Okay. So then, so this facility you had to get into, you found that it had a prototype weaponry of some sort, some sort of turret that Okay. They had some type of physical security, probably a friend or foe algorithm detecting turret system that you weren't familiar enough to feel comfortable bypassing, that you needed to break into Saifu to get schematics of and pull that out so that you could reverse engineer and more easily bypass those weapons in Apex. I'm not sure why Saifu doesn't have these installed, but we'll ignore that caveat for a second.
Maybe it's new in the market. It was like a weapons convention I had to infiltrate.
That could be. Yeah, maybe it's not actually.
Steal that from like the CEO's house.
Sure.
CEO's house.
Yeah, so it's something that Saifu's not actually using, but for whatever reason Apex has it on trial.
From their most secure location by any means.
Okay. So then Trashman's
Something
mission.
like that off like a scientist.
So Trashman's mission was against Apex Systems. Let's actually roll around to the flip side of that. So first, I mean chronologically, you found out from EDC through the White Tigers about the hit on Apex Systems, and at that point you were assigned Whisper. One of the two of you found out that they had this physical security. Which of you figured that out? Was that Whisper or was that Trashman?
That probably would have been me doing research in the Matrix on the place.
Okay. So you realized that they had a prototype defense system that you didn't know enough about to feel confident bypassing quickly enough before it was shooting you. So to bypass that, you learned where it rooted from, and it rooted from Saifu, which was the security company, and it was a prototype. It wasn't actually something they had defined. So at this point, this is the mission that you planned. That this is Whisper's mission. So what does that mission look like, Whisper?
Well, I had to basically let's say that this weapon system was kind of weak in terms of the cyberspace, and it was one of the vulnerabilities to use it. So basically, I had to. What I'm thinking is, I went to a weapons convention. These things are relatively new. They're still not necessarily spread out in the market. So the only way to get one of these is through weapons convention, where people would advertise these weapons to corporations, and I had to be like a fake negotiator, contractor, and pretty much get schematics from it.
Question. I need to look at your sheet, but are you face or cat burglar?
I am face.
Okay, perfect. And that explains that approach. Okay. All right. So you needed to go to the convention, and how did you get access to? So you needed to get the schematics, or actually you probably needed to get the code as well as schematics. So you went to a convention, and who did you end up getting that information from, or how did you? Because this is also something that Trashman was involved in, so he's going to probably you're probably going to get in and get to the point where you can hand something off to him to have him pull the actual information. How did that happen?
You could say I'm not very literate when it comes to cyberspace, so maybe he probably had to walk me through some things that I need, that sort of would that we would need in the mission.
So was he
Nothing
with you in
too.
person while you were trying to work your way socially through this, or were you
What do you
completely
mean, like
separated?
socially?
Well, so if you
I
were
wouldn't
if
imagine him in the open.
okay, yeah, if you were at a convention and trying to pose as this thing, were you helping him to pose as something similar as well, or like maybe you were some corp CEO and he was a tech, so that you didn't have to like make it seem too like get him too involved, but I'm just trying to figure out how he was involved and how he got close enough to do
Uh,
whatever it is he needed to do.
let's say he was under the disguise of maintenance, and he sort of was doing maintenance work in the site.
Well, I think that'll okay. If he agrees with that, we can go with that. So basically, you just need. So he wasn't with you though. So you were helping him to get to a point where he could access what he needed to do, and you were doing that by distracting the people who you felt had it. So is this something that someone was carrying around with them?
Might be just data, just for the blueprints.
Okay, and where was that data that you had to get into it, or that he had to get into it?
It was on site, and it's pretty much accessible, let's say according to him, from a terminal.
Okay, so I'll leave that to actually Trashman then. But so
So
from
if
your
you said it's at,
perspective,
like a convention, like I would probably have to get like near their tech or like have you steal it or something like that.
right? Or since he's a face, he could have been just distracting them enough to where you could get close and have the time to do this, and that'll be up to you to define. So basically, from Whisper's perspective, he was just helping to distract. He was there to find the target to keep them engaged long enough for you to do what you needed to do. So how were you involved in this? What did you do?
So as he's like talking to these salesmen and like officials from Saifu, I walk behind their their booth and just sleight of hand like steal a cyber deck or like a little tablet pad or something, and
Okay.
I just walk away with it like out of the convention into the like bathroom or something and hack
Okay.
into it.
So you actually steal it. You don't just do it in place.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I wouldn't risk not having time for that, and if like I'll walk back in there and see if I would have tried to like rehide it if possible, or put it back there like it hadn't been lost.
Okay. All right. So in doing that, you got access to the schematics and code, the algorithms that run it, and you learned what you need to learn to bypass that system once you went to Apex. So you pulled that. Let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and increase Saifu's. Shoot, I'm on the wrong thing again. Ugh, I gotta get better at this. It's on the map layer, that's why. Alright, so Saifu's is going up because you were involved. At some point they noticed something about what you did, maybe because you took it and someone kind of noticed that it was missing and got back. It wasn't enough for them to raise an alarm to keep you from getting into Apex, but they... Oh, that was the wrong group. Hold on.
It's okay.
Let's change that. I was pretty sure I clicked on the right one, but must have missed. Alright, so I'll change that back to 0. So Saifu is also vaguely aware of you. They know that they're not aware of you in particular, but they know that something happened. They realized later, I think there were some logs that you left or something, some little fingerprint was just enough to make them wonder what was going on, but they didn't learn it until after you already hit Apex Systems. And maybe the hit on Apex Systems is what led them to realize what happened at Saifu. Maybe Apex reported to them that something happened and this was bypassed and what's going on. You told me this was good, and they might have looked and then realized, oh, something happened here. So both of them are now alert to your presence to some, or alert that someone was messing in their systems. So the hit on Apex, you bypassed the system, you got in. How, Whisper, how are you involved in the hit on Apex?
I was basically the meat space in all this, so I had to infiltrate from reception all the way to the offices where I would get these financial data.
Yeah, I feel like he would be like just getting me and the other hacker in, or like all of us rather.
Right.
I could like do some rewiring in between to get them better, breach and security.
Maybe he's
Right.
doing like sort of physical bypasses.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, so there were two of you, two hackers plus the maybe a soldier of some sort or a killer or someone who was there just to handle things if things went really south. But I'm thinking that he helped all four of you get through into a place where you could tap into their local isolated network and access the data that you needed. Right? Okay. And part of that was bypassing the prototype system. So you actually probably, since that was a physical system, you may have created some sort of device that allowed you to like be invisible to them, or to think that anyone in this certain area was friendly and not engaged or not alert in any way. So that was something that you probably provided to Whisper, and he utilized that device to help get you in through that point. And then once you got into where you could hard tap into their systems, you dove in along with... Who was the other hacker that was with you?
Am I like naming a contact?
You're not actually declaring it, but it could be a contact that comes up later.
Let me come up with a name real quick.
Okay.
I'll let you know in a minute.
Sure. Actually, while you're doing that, I need to do one thing here too. One second, random. One good resource if you're looking for names is like donjon.bin.sh.
Donjon?
Yeah. DONJON. Okay. I'm gonna go with. So is this a male or female first? You already got one. Okay.
Oh, that's not a V, that's an X. It just auto-corrected.
Oh, so Lixing.
Li Xing.
So Li Xing Han.
Yeah.
Okay. Li Xing. All right. Now, did anything go wrong on this run at all? Did it work, or did it just go south in any way?
On Apex?
Yes.
No, no.
I don't think that it did, since we did like a preliminary sort of thing to make sure that nothing went wrong.
Okay. All right. So everyone got all right, and no issues. No one was detected. Was it completely silent? Did you get in and get out, and no one noticed, at least until you were gone, or did any alerts ever get triggered?
At least until we were gone, the other hacker was like controlling security systems and cameras and those things.
Okay. Got it. All right. So that went through. You successfully. Let's see. Let me. Lixing. Ah.
Not the most
Got it.
Chinese looking.
Well, by this point, there's probably enough mixing that Chinese is barely Chinese anymore anyway.
Oh, I have a better one. Hold on.
Okay.
Synthetic.
Interesting.
It's way edgier.
Yeah. It's almost geisha-like, but not quite.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, that went well. Surprisingly, again, you left some traces, and they were a little bit alerted that the fact that someone was in their system. But I don't know that they ever figured out necessarily what it was you stole and provided to EDC. But you were able to get that back. You got a payout from EDC. And I don't know that you ever knew exactly. Did you look into the data that you provided them, or did you do it as they had said, which would have been just get me this and that's it? Like, not. In general, I think there's kind of an unspoken. They probably spoke it too, that you shouldn't like dig into the data that you're getting. Did you?
Yeah, and personally, like with Xingjia's background, like he probably would have a little bit more respect, especially like for like a Chinese corporation, because
Right.
he's always been preached about that as well.
Okay, so he does have some level of honor that he's following.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, yep, you returned the data, they paid you out, and things went on. Okay. So then that's go ahead and add each of you add a link for the other. So in your sheet, the way I usually use the sheets, I have one entry that's the name of the person and the total number of links, but then I have a second entry that each link that you get, I just say like who it's with and why. So you might just say who it is, and it was the intro mission. For Whisper, you will have a link with Trashman, and that will be based on the Apex mission, and then the same with the other way around. And link is good whenever you're rolling like help out or interfere. That's the stat that you'll generally roll unless you have a move that allows you to use a different element.
Got a 9.
Okay. So luckily that roll doesn't actually count, because that would have been painful. Although it was only 1d6. How did you roll 1d6?
1 plus 3 plus.
Oh, never mind. Each one of those is 1d6. I get it. I see how it's rolling. I was looking to mouse over the 1 plus 3 and have it say 2d6, but it's actually each individual. Alright. So that would have been a 5, which would have actually been a failure, which would have been bad in whatever situation that was. Alright. So I think that gets through links, and at that point, that's it. Okay, so normally we would have finished links last session, and based on that, I would have probably built out some framework for the mission we're going on now. Because we didn't get to this until now, we're gonna have to kind of wing a mission, but we can do that. That's not a problem. What I would ask is, so the two of you, do you continue working together? Like, is this the only missions you've ever done together, or have you done other missions up to this point?
Probably the only two so far, but I don't see why we wouldn't. If
Okay.
those went well.
So those went well. Did you choose to take on another mission together then? Or did EDC possibly act as a fix? Did we have a fixture that is in EDC and they gave another assignment? Is that like basically I want?
Reasonable.
Okay, so EDC was apparently happy with your performance and they chose to actually contract you for another mission. All right. What do you think that mission would look like? I mean, what do you think that they would be asking for? Is it something completely unrelated, or do you think it would be a follow up to this mission in some way?
I think they would maybe strike out at Tenoshi. Since they're an entertainment corporation, they have like sort of the same things that they kind of wanted from Apex. Like
Okay.
different marketing data and just things to grow their own corporation and reach more people.
All right. So maybe they're looking at the marketing side of TYB.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So something that they're doing that is getting their message across to people, and they want to have access to that. Okay.
Maybe since East Dragon Coalition isn't like in our location yet, they kind of want to do like a propaganda or like hijack this massive media corporation for a minute. Like maybe they want us to go in there and like air a commercial for them.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Maybe instead of stealing something, you're actually planting something.
Right.
I can
That
see
makes
that.
sense because they're trying to expand.
Yeah. So let's say, all right. So EDC contracting to plant. All right. So I think EDC will want you to, and this will be against Tenoshi. All right.
We won't piss anyone off like really seriously since there's only two of us.
Right.
Buy
So
some body armor.
Yeah, I don't have any armor and I have just like a pistol because I took the Microtronics workstation and the van. Also, I was gonna ask if since it's a Microtronics workstation, can I fit that inside the van? Like
I think
to
the
work on pieces of cyberware and cyberdecks, so it's like small tools and components.
right. Yeah, the microtronics is that you're working on small things, not necessarily that the material is small, but let's see, microtronics. Is that in the manual somewhere?
It's in my playbook in my gear choices.
How do they spell
I
it?
don't know it. One second.
Micro.
Pretty sure it's like micro and then TRONICS.
That's what I would have thought too, but it's a search is not. But it's in your playbooks.
Microtronics workstation.
Oh, there, I found it.
You may perform field repairs on electronics.
I think, yeah, that'll fit in your van. I mean, the van's not small, so
Right.
as long as you don't have like 10 different workstations in there, that's fine. Like this and
Yeah.
some materials and some other stuff crammed in there. Now, because of that, you're probably gonna have less space for people in it. So you probably have room for the driver, a person in the passenger seat, and maybe let's see. Hey, it's upgraded from an ordinary van.
Yeah, I changed all the silly stuff, like my cyber deck. I made that cooler. I put my actual avatar in there, like this cyberpunk anime character with a very similar pistol.
Oh, okay. So that's your avatar.
And then kind of what I imagined like the cyber deck to do when it expanded, like that hologram sort of tablet thing.
I see. Oh yeah. Okay. And
And so the cyber deck is shadow and the pistol is light.
going. Got it. Okay. And the weapon is that what? Well, yeah. Weapons in general. Do we just assume they're large? I guess there's probably some competition, but are they Saifu weapons?
Oh, mine definitely is.
Okay. Saifu. All right, and we don't really have a vehicle manufacturer that's obvious as one of these, but okay, don't have to worry about that yet. All right, so you are right now located somewhere on the East Coast, are you in the northern side or more mid?
The sprawl that I think the 13, like when I was talking about that, was like those like 4 cities just like along the coast. Like, I'll have to look it back up again because geography.
So I don't want to keep bringing this up, but is there any? So right now, you again sound like you're talking into a pillow, and it just sounds like mumbling and almost no highs. Is there?
Well, I put a shitty headset in because you talked about echoing, so it's
Okay.
kind of,
Yeah. So I get one or the other. Great.
yeah,
Okay. So there's nothing you can do about it. All right.
not so much at this point.
I'll just keep straining.
If you
I,
could,
I've
I don't know if you turned me up all the way.
I've turned you up as far as you'll go. You're at 200%, but it's not volume. It's literally that it just sounds like you're talking underwater. So even it's not so much. Even though you are low, turning you up, it still didn't really help much. But I'll deal with it.
What about now?
Say something again.
What about now?
Similar. It's not much. It's maybe a little better.
What about
That's
now?
It's hard to say. It sounds the same, but back to back it might be better. If it was always like that, I could probably understand you all the time. All right. Yeah, last week with Roll20, you were actually the most clear person. But this week it's with this. I don't know if it's a Discord thing, just their algorithm's different, or it's your headset. But I guess
So what I was saying, if you can hear me now, was
yeah.
the sprawl I had in mind was basically from like Philadelphia to Boston.
Okay.
So like it covers New York and it's like covered just like along the coast.
All right. Where did you? So when you got the when you met EDC the last time, how did you contact them, or how did they contact you?
I think they might have done it like through my cyber deck, like not like they hacked me, but I was just contacted in that way. Like I got an alert or like not an email, but
Right. Okay. So it wasn't. Did you ever have any direct contact with them, or it was purely over some type of internet or net communication?
so far it's been on that communication.
Okay. Did you have a specific contact that it was the one who did it, or it just was like a message from EDC?
Say that again.
Did you have a specific person who did that contacting, or it was just a general message from EDC with it was semi-anonymous?
It was semi-anonymous.
Okay. All right. So as you're getting this information, what are you guys doing? Like, are you together? Are you going to? So I'm just trying to figure out if between these missions you've actually had any contact, or if you've just done your own separate things.
Probably would have done my own separate thing, like working with the hacker group that I'm in.
Okay.
Basically,
And what?
EDC is like tasking us out again, then they might just have him tag along as well again.
Okay. So in super quick summary, like what does your general life look like if you're not on a mission? What are you doing over the next week and a half before what's about to happen happens? Are you just
Trashman, with heavy air quotes, delivers pizzas, and in that sense, he travels to different businesses and different places around and parks his van and searches for pay data in low security networks.
okay? And Whisper, your week and a half, what does that look like?
I guess I'm like dining in restaurants, fancy restaurants, while doing, I don't know, trading in the stock market,
Hmm.
doing research.
Okay. So do you kind of have like a side life as a day trader type thing, or is that just as a cover, or that's just something he does because he wants
Actively
to?
trying to make money, I guess.
Okay. So that's not even like a cover or anything. That's what you're trying to do to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that works. Okay, so Trashman, you see. Let me think how this starts out. So during one of your days, you let me think about how you get this contact. You are. What are you doing? So you're about to get a message pinging you from the Matrix. What are you doing when this comes in?
I'm probably just driving away from getting some pay data from someplace, like going home for the day to like take care of his dad, probably.
Okay. So right before you're getting finished up for the day, you get a ping in. So you get a message. What does that look like, and how do you answer it? You don't know the message, but how do you check it?
It just kind of like flashes like on the cyber deck like hologram.
So are you looking at the hologram when that happens, or does it like ping you in some other way, and then you have to bring your hand up to pull that out?
Yeah, he's like basically holding it while he's driving, and he would probably close it and just wait a bit to check it.
Okay, so you're driving in, and you get a ping, a message waiting.
He probably sees like the dragon logo, and just kind of sighs and waits to get home to check it.
Okay. So you go ahead, you continue driving. Is it legal to have that up while you're driving? Are you going to be arrested on the way home?
Probably not.
We'll skip that.
He's doing it.
We'll assume that you get home fine. Won't make your roll on that. That would be silly. Okay. But you make it home. Go ahead and describe whatever happens up to the point where you actually answer this message. Or check this message, I should say.
I think I talked about like his backstory and like his dad being like the trash worker and everything. By this point, he's probably like now retired and like pretty old, so Trashman's been like taking care of him, and he thinks that he's like a pizza delivery boy and like works for tips, and when he's bringing home like stolen pay data that he steals on the street, so he probably goes home and like takes care of him and makes him food and sees him off to bed and all that good stuff, because he's pretty old and decrepit at this point, and then goes into his room and opens up his cyber deck and checks his message.
Okay. So as you open the cyber deck, you pull up the message, and it's a very brief, terse message. It just says, "New mission, need team. Are you in?" ?
So I'll just reply yes.
Okay. After about a minute, you get another ping for another message that comes in. In checking it, you see that it gives you some details. It's basically got a target facility, and that facility is it's a mission against Tenoshi, and it is, let's see. I think that's really they don't give many details. It's just Um, Usually these would be in-person discussions, so I'm trying to figure out how they would do negotiation through the messaging. So yeah, target Tenoshi, and they give GPS coordinates to a specific facility, and they say needs research required, like details, many variables unknown.
Okay.
And now, in fiction, you can handle this however you want, but we're going to end up needing to roll a get the job. Let's see, and that is. Let me find that move. Sorry. Do you have the MC sheets by chance?
Give me 1 second.
That's something that would be really good to have handy.
They're in our Timurier info in Discord.
Right.
So roll edge. 10 plus, choose 3. 7 to 9, choose 1. Between these.
Okay, where?
I wonder if my employer's identifiable.
Well, at this point, you kind of know. I mean, you don't know exactly. You think it's from East Dragon Coalition, obviously, but that's all you know. If you ask for that, you could maybe get more details if you wanted to be able to fully identify. But in this case, that's not necessarily something. Wait, what is this? Oh, did you paste something from the PDF?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just has a little weird
Right.
symbol for the bullet.
There's only like 5 elements that you rolled, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I rolled a 10 on that. So I'll take the first 3.
Okay, so they provided useful information, they provide useful assets, and the job pays well. All right. Okay. So
I guess I just reply like, we're good. We're gonna need a little bit more payment this time.
all right. After a couple of
Maybe
minutes,
not payment, but a little bit more help and a little bit more payment since we're getting intel and gear. Make sure
Okay.
we're set up properly.
all right. After a few minutes, you get another response. It's again very terse, just to the point, and it says, "You did good last mission. We can provide some resources, and so." And then also they basically acknowledge that you kind of go back and forth a little bit on how much you're going to charge, but they acknowledge that they'll up the contract fee for this one, so you will basically accomplish the job pays well. And they forward some more information. They forward some details on they basically re-forward you Whisper's information and tell you that you have access to this resource for help getting on site. This will be an on-site mission. You'll need to actually access physical premises to get there, and it will be accessing an internal data structure that you will need to be able to inject code into, as well as a payload. And they also give you a little more information. That they give you some details on the system. Mark Intel. So if you go to the deck, you could put Intel in your inventory, or you can also go to the deck and choose the Intel icon and drag that into your box. That's another way you can note that.
I just see
I have a
them
question.
Yes.
Is it one intel each or just one intel for him?
Yeah, it's just one for him.
Alright.
But I mean, if we're working together, I'm like, no, man, you can't have my gear.
Yeah, the intel
You're
is
obviously the one who probably needs gear, so like you're definitely going to be using that.
right. So basically, the intel is information that they give, and any one of you could use it. You all, whatever they actually gave you, I'm sure that you would have shared among each other. So it will be one piece of intel, but all of you could use it, and whoever needs it can call it up as you need for this particular piece. Certain other intel, like the intel that you gain as a face as you're going through, you may or may not be able to share that because it depends on the circumstances. But this intel absolutely could be shared across the entire team, because as soon as he gets his team together, he's going to probably share this information. He could choose not to, I guess, since right now he got the notice and he's building the team. So I guess he could ignore what you guys actually need and just try to be selfish about it, but I doubt that that's what would happen. And the gear, similarly, the gear could be something that they provide on site or that they send in some way, and he could have provided that to you. And at the point that we trade in the gear, you can pretty much just define what that actually means. So maybe they did give something that Whisper would have needed, and before the mission, he got physical access to that. But we could say that mid-mission. So,
Yeah, I got it.
So yeah, I'll grab out the intel.
So I'll send them one more message, and I say, just Whisper or more agents necessary.
Okay, and again, a couple of minutes pass, and they say, we'll cover Whisper. Anything else you need is on you.
And I'll just say back, got it. It'll be done. Did they say like a time frame that we need, or just kind of whatever?
So they gave you some details. They basically gave they didn't have an exact time frame, but actually yes, they would have said within, let me think. Yeah, they would have given a rough time frame. It needs to be within the next 5 days, and actually that's it. Just any time within the next 5 days.
Okay. All right, so I'll just sleep that night and wake up on what I'm assuming is day one, and have the next 5 days to get it done. I'll start out by calling up Whisper as soon as possible.
Okay, Whisper, the same day that he was doing that, what were you doing? You were okay. So you are in the middle of something. What are you in the middle of when you get the ping?
I guess I'm on my usual. Just being in a restaurant, doing research or trading commodities.
Okay, so you're not. Are you with anyone, or are you just alone?
Alone.
Okay, so you're going through. You're looking at the tickers, figuring out where you should transfer this to that, and as you're doing that, a notice pops up. What do you use as a cyber deck, or not a cyber deck? What do you use as a PDA? What does it look like?
I guess it's what do you call this? Basic glass, and there's like, touchpad.
Okay, so it is basically just like a glass. It's similar to an iPhone, but instead of a little bigger, and it's more just like a clipboard, a glass clipboard. But then when you engage
Yep.
it's got a screen and touch screen and everything. Okay, so similar to an iPad but clear. All right. Yeah. So in the corner of that, you get a notification pop up, and you see that it's from your employer.
Right, so I press a button to answer the call.
And it pops up. It actually just immediately gives you details. It says new mission, timeline, timeline close. It's like gives you a 5-day range, and it says you'll be contacted by by team, or you'll be contacted by the White Tiger contact, and that you worked with before, Trashman, and they give you some further information, details. Mostly they give you the same details that they gave him. They give you just the mission specs, some details that you need to know, like where the facility is, GPS location, and details like that.
Right, so I close that tab, I signal the waiter to get me my bill, and I take a whole sip from my, I don't know, I guess my glass. I pack up and leave.
Okay. And are you going to contact him, Trashman, first, or are you going to wait for him to contact you? Because they did say you'll be contacted by him, but you can contact him if you want. Doesn't matter.
I guess I'll just wait for him to contact me.
Okay. So then you go back, you do whatever you need to do, you just get mentally prepared for another mission coming up, and anything else you do that night, or you just wait till the next day and we'll continue from there?
I'll wait till the next day.
Okay. Alright, so next day comes across. Go ahead, Trashman.
Do I know where he's at, or could I hack in and know where Whisper stays?
I mean, it sounds like you didn't share that information, so that's kind of between you, the two of you, and if you want to do that, you could try to do that. I don't know. Whisper, did you give him any details?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So
He
did
just
you...
knows that I work within the area.
Pizza van, let's go.
Okay, so you're going to try to find out where he is?
I guess we made contact.
So he would have to contact him first. And he'll just say, need to deliver a pizza.
I'll give him details about this road, at what time, figure out the time.
I'll just meet him wherever he's referring to. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure exactly where. They're just making abstract places in time.
All right. So are you meeting? Are you telling him to? So you're arranging a meeting. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, he wants me to get in the pizza van, and I just told him at what street he's gonna pick me up at.
Got it. Okay. And yeah, actually, so you're gonna meet him on some street. What streets are you meeting? The corner of what and what?
Oh, so we gotta make one up, or do
Yep.
we?
Just throw out a name.
I can't think of something creative.
All right.
I'll come up with one. Mine is Vex Street.
Okay.
Good
Vex
enough.
Street, and 13th. All right. So yeah, so Vex Street and 13th. That's where you will end up trying to meet. Sorry, what is? Oh, Vex. Okay, I had spelled that differently. All right. So, do you just go to that meeting? Both of you end up showing up there.
Yep.
All right. So
Probably
with
standing on the sidewalk, and I'd pull up real slowly in the pizza van, slide open the the side door of it or something so we can hop in. Well, because I'll probably just park it right there.
I wouldn't mistake it for anyone else's van.
Yeah, I don't think a pizza van will just randomly drive up to that exact corner at that exact time if it wasn't the one you expected.
Just give a confused face.
I just roll down the window and give him the sup nod.
And I check my time on my watch, and I just move in. Get in the van.
Okay. And just for the record, the time is about... See, is it mid-morning or is it afternoon when you met?
I guess night is better.
Or did you wait till later?
Probably not the best to wait a whole day.
Yeah. So basically, when you checked your watch, what time was it?
I'd say 6 p.m.
Okay, 6 p.m. All right. All right. So you get in his van, and are you getting in the? I guess you're getting in the passenger side. Had you gotten? So you were in the driver's side. You rolled down the passenger side window, and you just gave him a nod,
Yeah.
and then he got in. Okay. So he got in. So now you're in the van. Do you stay parked?
I'll drive like around maybe like at least 5 or 6 blocks or so, just so like if someone was monitoring or something, we're not sitting at this exact location.
Right. Okay. And what are you doing while you're driving? Are you talking about the job? You just yeah. What do you do basically?
He'll probably just like start like explaining the job like he's heard nothing about it, um, and say that
He, as in you? Okay.
as in Whisper, like
I
he's
see.
assuming that Whisper hasn't been informed, and so he's like posing different ideas to get things started, like staking out the location or discovering
So-
what kind of security they have.
Sorry. So when you say he's saying, you mean Trashman's saying, right? So you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
Trashman saying
Got it.
like he's describing it to Whisper, like Whisper had like wasn't informed by EDC himself.
Right. Got it. So Trashman. So you're telling Whisper the details. Got it.
Yeah, and then just kind of like brainstorming different ideas for like legwork, I suppose. Just like straight to business.
And how do you respond to that, Whisper? Do you just let him keep
I tell
talking,
them-
or do you?
I've
Go ahead.
already heard. I've already heard. All I know is that EDC wants to get in on the market, and he wants going to go through it. And he's going to do it through this company.
I don't really care about their motives. I just want to learn a little bit more about where we need to get into.
And technically, you don't know the motives. You might know some of the motives, Whisper, but that wouldn't have been part of the mission description. You might be able to make some
I
assumptions.
thought you mentioned it. I thought you mentioned it.
Out of character, just as you're playing the mission, I want to know what their actual goal was, but they wouldn't necessarily tell the runners that they had doing this job that. All they would tell them was just, here's some data, I need you to put this in this system. Go. They wouldn't really give... They wouldn't care about them knowing why they were doing it. In fact, they probably wouldn't want them to know why they were doing it. So unless you were twisting their arm to get them to force them to tell you something, you probably wouldn't have known that in character.
Oh.
But yeah, out of character,
We're
you know
going to the
that.
meeting, right? We're not doing legwork yet.
Well, at this point, I mean, this would be this is basically the start of legwork. You've got the job, so he's basically just picked you up, and then this is mechanically you're just going to be doing legwork at this point. Yes.
So we're not really driving towards the meeting to get more information because I don't think we know what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
What's the mission about?
That's what legwork's for, like, figure out what we're gonna do. Planning and stuff.
What you do know is the information they gave you, which is that there's a facility they gave you GPS coordinates on. So they gave you some GPS coordinates. They gave you a location to download a payload package that they want injected into a system, but apparently that system is a walled off system. It's internal to the facility, so they need you to be on site and access that system in some way and inject that data package into it. This is basically all you know at this point.
Alright, so I opened my briefcase in the back of the van and I put on some masks, some synthetic masks, and I dress up as a commoner. And I'd signal to Trashman that I'll get dropped in the area nearby. So I'm just gonna take a walk.
So near that facility or near where you are?
Near the facility.
Okay, so the GPS,
It's on the road.
in doing that, I'm assuming you would have looked at where the GPS coordinates were and figured out where that building is, or where that facility is.
Yeah. I'm not sure how far it would be.
Yeah, and right now all you have is GPS coordinates, so you have no idea. But I'm assuming that you would want to learn that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you could either just let me think about this. You can either just figure out where it is, and you can easily put in GPS coordinates and see where that is related to where you are, or you can in fact you do that, and the things that are immediately obviously apparent are that, see, where is this facility? So this is where we're kind of making this up on the fly. This isn't something that in character you're doing, but out of character, just building this, I could throw it together or we could do it together, and I'm asking for input. Where do those GPS coordinates, where are they? First, I guess, are they in a major city or are they kind of in a more out of the way area?
So like the middle of the sprawl that I had in mind is like New York. So like our modern day New York, said it might be like their, well, that might be their headquarters. Maybe it's like a smaller one that's I don't know, it might be the main one. I don't know if that's like too ambitious for right now.
Okay, so it's in a
say
city area.
branch.
Is it like one of the most heavy industrial, or not industrial, like downtown type areas, or is it in
I
a
was
slightly?
thinking it's like, since it's an entertainment corporation, like they would probably be in New York.
So is this one of their main local branch headquarters?
I would think so.
Okay. So yeah, they do have a branch headquarters not too far away. It's probably maybe 6 miles towards the core, and the core being an area of near where you are that is like the deepest part of downtown. I mean, the sprawl is like it says, it's the sprawl. So it's just one giant city that extends really far. But there's areas that are more built up and areas that are a little lighter, and this is one of the heavier ones and more commercial areas. So there's a large, it's probably maybe a 100-story-ish building that they maintain as a division HQ about 10 miles away.
Okay. So I'll just start driving there immediately.
Okay. So that was very easy to get information, so you didn't need to make any research checks or not. But if you wanted to get any more information about that, you would need to do some legwork to figure that out.
Yeah,
But
I'll
so
wait until I get outside the building so we can kind of work at the same time.
Okay. All right. So you head out there. It takes you. It's kind of heavy traffic, so it takes maybe an hour to get there. So by the time you get there, it's 7:30 p.m. The area is pretty. A lot of people like roaming the streets. This is a heavily commercial area, so there's a lot of shops. A lot of the whole bottom of this building is actually a retail area. The bottom 3 or 4 floors are filled with merchandise stores for properties related to, well, pretty much anything in media, since this company owns almost all media. But they've got a lot of retail stores in the bottom 3 floors. Driving around, you haven't parked yet, but there's medium vehicle traffic and heavy foot traffic in the blocks all around this area.
Is there anyone like from TYB like outside that I can see?
As you're driving by, see, there's one main entrance, and it's an entrance into an area that's like it's sort of like a mall. So there's an entrance, and then you go in, and there's a big tiled area with tons of advertisements all over the place, and there's little sub shops that are dedicated to individual IPs, individual like entertainment properties. You can't really see much. There's no door greeter or anything. You're sure that there are people. You can't tell for sure. No one that stands out at this point.
Okay.
But there's if you're asking if there's someone at a main door preventing or controlling traffic, no. People off the street are just wandering in and out through that main entrance.
Okay. I'll park and I'll walk around with Whisper. I'm assuming he's going in.
He was just gonna be someone on the street, so he was going to be wandering. Okay, so you park. You find a spot maybe 2 blocks up the street that is paid parking. Are you going to go in and give them? Okay, first, currency in this area. What do we think the currency looks like? Is this like still dollars? Did we convert to credits? Are we some other currency? Did we get like fully converted to something like
I would assume.
what?
Maybe it's like digital. I don't know.
It's going to be a combination. There's going to be a combination of actual hard currency and digital currency. Most things are probably going to be handled through digital currency at this point, but there are people who want to trade in hard currency, so there are ways of physically representing. But the question is, regardless of whether it's physical or digital, what is the general currency in this area? Is it dollars? Is it credits?
You mean like just what the name is?
Yeah. If you're parking, what are you paying? Are you paying $20 to park? Are you paying 100 not cred, but 100 credits? Or are you paying like something else?
I like the sound of credits.
Okay. So yeah, you are you good with paying like 200 credits to park? And again, this is not cred. This isn't going to actually be anything out of your cred pool, but it is money that you have to pay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 200 credits, and do you pay that digitally?
Yeah.
Okay. You pull in, there's an entire underground facility, a huge parking facility for the area, and they guide you to a specific spot, and then when you pull into the spot, there's a little machine little ticker pops out, and it gives you a number that references the location in the lot that you're at, and now you're parked.
Alright, so I want to like walk. If people are just walking in and out, I'm just gonna walk into this building and check it out.
Okay, and Whisper, are you going with him, or are you doing your own thing?
I would like to inspect what's inside the building. Are there any mini shops or something?
Okay, are you going in together, or are you going to go separate? Since you're both going
follow
in.
him into the building.
Okay, and are you keeping any spacing, or are you just going like you're walking together?
Spacing.
Okay, so you're kind of tailing him a little bit. Okay, so you head out of the parking garage up onto the street, and you work it's really hard to tail him on the street. There's so many people, it's hard to actually. I mean, you're good at tailing people, so it's not hard, but it's not trivial. So you've got to maintain some distance, but not too much. And it's a pretty crowded street. You're used to it at this point, but you're kind of shouldering your way through at a few points. You get up to the building. You'd parked maybe a block and a half away once you got up from the parking garage that you were in. And you head around and you just head into the main building. It's a large open front. It's almost like multiple double doors that are just opened up, or several, actually more like garage doors that are pulled up, and it ends up being a large 20, 25, maybe 30 foot wide opening that people are just pouring in and out. And you go in and you're immediately assaulted by advertising all over the place. For you trash men, I believe that it's actually coming. It's your cyber deck is getting pinged constantly with things in addition to. I can't remember. Do you have cyber eyes?
No.
Do either of you have cyber eyes?
I don't.
I have cyber ears.
Okay. Well, most of the advertisements are not virtual. They're things that pop up along walls, along glass. There's some not quite holograms, but there's like walls of smoke that things are playing against. But there's just advertising everywhere. There's people everywhere, advertising everywhere, and there's shops, like tons of shops along here. And then there's a main escalator in the middle that goes up to a second, and you would presume third level because the escalators are labeled levels 1 through 3.
Right.
What
so
do you do?
The company is within one of those floors, right?
So you don't know. I mean, you've got these. This is the GPS location, so you're pretty sure that it's this building. Beyond that, you don't have any details.
They didn't give me the corporation's name, or
Well, yeah. I mean, this is Tenoshi. This whole building is TYB.
Can I use my intel to know what floor it is?
Okay, you want to trade that in for this? Okay. Yeah, what you're looking for, it's not quite the very top floor, but there is a large server room 3 floors down from the top, so it's level 97. And there's apparently a large water-cooled set of server racks that is the location, or a location for. So this is one of the most likely points that EDC provided for tapping, based off of the intelligence that they got. There may be more points, and there may be caveats to this that they aren't aware of, but from their research, that's what they know. And now, because you traded that intel, you get a +1 anytime that you are in some way acting on that knowledge. So just remember that.
Okay. So I want to go to probably a bathroom stall so people don't see me on my cyber deck or anything. And just start go into the matrix and try and find just info on the building, what different levels are, or
Okay. What?
security
Whoa.
access.
What just happened? Sorry, that was just very loud and then... Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna need you to repeat one part of that. Just a second, why is this not showing up? Oh well. Okay, so you're going to go where to do this?
So he's going to the bathroom.
Probably in a bathroom where people couldn't see me.
Okay, so you're heading in, you're gonna head into the bathroom, first floor, in one of the stalls?
Yeah.
Okay. While you're heading that way, Whisper, what are you doing?
I'll tell him to meet me back here in 15 minutes or so.
Okay,
Just
so do you...
get split up in this big place.
So do you approach him, tap him on the shoulder, and say that, or how do you communicate that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we
All
do
right.
have communicators.
That's what I'm asking. How did you do it? You just walked up and tapped him?
Well, yeah, I don't have cyber comms.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So Trashman, you're walking towards the bathrooms, and then you get a tap on the shoulder. You turn, and it's Whisper, and he lets you know that he'll meet you back here in 15 minutes. Is that what you said?
15 minutes.
Opposite people, but yeah. I just
Can
before I go to hack into the matrix.
I acknowledge him, and can I offer him a comm, my number to my phone or something, my touchpad?
I mean, yes.
We don't have. I'll just say that we don't have to meet here. You could just communicate with me because my comm link's encrypted.
So basically, you're trying to establish comms between each other, correct?
Yes.
And you have cyber ears, and Trashman, what? So you just have your cyber deck. If you're not jacked in, do you have any way of, how do you interface with that? I guess sound-wise, you probably... How do you hear communication from your cyber deck when you're not jacked in?
I don't know.
Maybe earphones. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be something basic like that if I don't have any cyber gear or cyberware for it.
Okay.
Maybe like a wireless sort of a headset or something like that.
So, I mean, one thing you could do, you could convert that gear to a set of earpieces that are specifically encrypted and linked to each other, if you wanted to go that route.
I think we should wait and see for now.
Okay, so for now then you're just going to use his PDA and your cyber deck, and you're going to use text messaging, or are you going to?
Something of the sort. I think that's fine for now, and like, there might be a more dire need for that gear. I think maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Sean?
Yeah, I think we can just text each other. Pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so are you telling him to meet back here, or are you just gonna? Yeah. Did you actually tell him to meet back here? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I did.
All right. So we'll do whisper first. Okay. What are you doing while he's in the bathroom for this 15 minutes?
So as we depart, I head to the reception and I ask for guest passes to room 97.
Okay. All right. As you wander around, let's see. Okay. You wander around trying to get the lay of this place, and you see that it's on the 3rd floor, and anything like customer service and reception is 3rd floor. So, sorry. So you head up the escalators 2 floors, and on the 3rd floor is similar to the bottom 2 floors, but there's a little bit less traffic, less retail. Only about half of it's retail, and then the other half is mostly walled off with one area that leads into reception, and then probably some type of localized offices. It's not. I mean, there's obviously like 100 floor or 97-ish floors of other room above you where most of the offices end up being, but I think customer service and things related to that are in this half of this floor. So you go in. Let's see. Fast talk. Okay. You head in, and at the front there is a receptionist, a woman who is at a desk. What do you do?
I say hi. Hi, can you guest pass floor 97, please?
Okay. I think roll fast talk. Yeah, roll fast talk.
Oh boy. That's not good.
All right, so that'll be interesting. Let me think about this. So 3, 5, 6. So you rolled a 6. So 3 and a 2 plus 1 style. Did you have any moves that apply to this? Anything that triggers off of just talking to someone to get information?
I do have covert entry. Not sure if it applies here.
I mean, you're trying to get up, and your covert entry is face.
He is alone.
You might be able to use covert entry here. Let's just go with that fast talk roll for now, and then you might need to use covert entry. 1 second. Let me think about what a 6 would imply.
You see, I think you get to make
All
a
right.
move.
Yeah, basically. At this point, I'm just trying to figure out what that move would be because they're not really aware. So this is Tenoshi that you're not even on their clock. Nothing's up, so they're not on alert at all. All right. Okay, so you just said you wanted a guest pass for floor 97. Okay. So she responds. Actually, she picks up a clipboard and she starts looking through the clipboard, flipping through. And your name?
Oh shit. Andrew.
She's flipping through the board a little more.
And your last?
Smith.
Andrew Smith.
She continues flipping through the board. She kind of flips through. Then she goes on to she's got a PDA. It's not a PDA. It's a screen placed in front of her, similar to a PDA, but it's fixed and larger. And she starts flicking around in it.
Sorry, sir, but I can't find an Andrew Smith on the schedule today. Who are you?
Can I get a guest pass? Just a guest pass?
A guest pass? Who's author?
I'm just here to do research for education.
Well, I mean, we don't usually give guest passes. I can call up and see if I can get an okay. Okay, give me just a minute. I'm gonna go ahead and call up and see what I can arrange.
And she taps a few things on the display, and you kind of see a red, like she has an earring that kind of goes up towards your ring, and it starts glowing red. And she starts speaking to someone on the end.
Yeah, I've got an Andrew Smith here who wants a guest pass for the 97th floor. Is that something that we should do? I mean, do you want to? Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And she looks up at you, and she says,
"Can I get your contact information? Here's a."
She hands you a small PDA that has some information on it that allows you to. It basically is asking for some personal information, some ID numbers, things that you would basically just have.
Can you fill that out, and then I can I'll talk to them and see what's going on with.
Oh, so can I use my cyber ears to listen in on maybe there are other people in the reception talking to get information from them?
You could, except right now there's actually no one else in here.
Oh.
I will say that you probably, when she was talking, you tried to use the cyber ears to hear the other side of that conversation. And basically, the person who was responding to her was telling her that, no, we don't give guest passes. Why? Who is it that's trying to get up here? And why are they trying to get to the 97th floor? And then they told her to get them to fill out a contact entry and get back to us when they do that.
I'll just kind of like I'll just make some fraud information. I'll just put it in there.
Okay. She takes it and she pushes a button, and you hear a little bloop, and then she waits, and you hear someone on the other end saying, "Okay, can you hold them in the lobby for a few minutes, and we will be down to deal with this shortly?" And she turns to you and says,
"Okay, sir, I've forwarded them this information. They'll be down to issue that pass shortly, I believe. If you just want to have a seat over here and wait for a minute, I'm sure someone will be with you shortly."
All right. I'll say that if you need me, I'll just be over at the bathroom.
"Okay."
That's definitely where you want to lead them. Thanks.
All right. Now, as a note, I mean, you, from a character perspective, may or may not have caught that they were a little bit, actually, yeah, you realize they're a little leery of that, and actually that, let's see, legwork. That is increasing the legwork clock by 1, so the legwork's at 1500. That was a little odd, so they're kind of a little bit on alert at this point, like that something odd has happened. So they're not really paying too closely attention, but someone for some reason has just shown up in the lobby trying to get to the 97th floor, which seems a little strange to them. All right, Trashman, what are you doing during this time?
So I'm just trying to. I don't know if I need to be in the Matrix for it, but I'm just trying to research information about this building, any weak spots, if we would, what sort of access we would need to get to the 97th floor, or just what's the best way in, I guess.
Okay, so yeah, it'll be faster. It'll be definitely much easier if you're fully jacked in, but you can do it through either just an AR interface or even just directly interfacing with the cyberdeck. For you,
So
your general interface with the cyberdeck is AR, really.
do I need something physical to like jack in, or can I just like use that move because I have a cyber?
No, you have the cyberdeck with you. It's literally strapped to your arm and forearm, so all you need to do is just basically engage that however you do. I don't know if there's a button on there or if it's a mental thing that you can just engage at any point. The only thing about jacking in for you is that you will then be unaware of your body. That's about the only downside.
Right. Yeah, I'm pooping, so it's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll jack in then. And it works in correspondence with my neural interface. And I have that move on the neural interface, which is kind of what I'm trying to do.
Okay. So describe this a little bit. So you jack in and you immediately first drop into your own personal cyberdeck node. What does that node look like?
What do you mean by node? Like just like my reality, basically?
Yeah, you basically, everything that you do is based out of your own node. So your cyberdeck is its own processor and it has its own reality, its own look. What is it presenting itself as when you actually fully jack in?
So I was kind of considering like a couple of things. I was thinking about just like a regular, just like cyberpunk world, but a little bit more amped up. But I was also thinking
Whoa.
like,
Sorry.
cyberpunk character like in like ancient China is like the node, or just like different settings in China. And I think you'd probably do some neat stuff with that. But I'm not sure. Do you have any input?
Okay, so ancient China. So
Or
like
any sort of China, I suppose, like that.
So I mean, you could do something like an old, like a Shaolin temple, or you could have some sort of like a dojo of some sort, or you could be in a city or a small building. Like what area of China? What type of building? What type of?
I guess it's different at different points, but right now it's just like what modern day Beijing would be like.
Okay, so sort of cityscape, like crowded,
Right.
thin. Okay, so similar to reality at this point, just not nearly as more not rural, but in this world rural, which is like light city. Okay, so you got kind of tight crowded streets. Are there people or is it empty?
There's definitely people.
All right.
Yeah, it's like normal reality would be like hustle and bustle.
Now this connects to other nodes. How do you represent those nodes? Do you see a window into them? Do you see a door that leads to them? Do you see just like one whole side of it just drops off and becomes the other thing? What is the representation of that connection to other areas outside of your deck?
So like if I wanted to like go where, for example.
Well, anywhere, basically anywhere you are that you're trying to connect, there will be entry points to other places. But in this case, the most local node is probably the consumer side of this building. So this node is going to end up looking very similar to the actual retail store, but more idealized. So it's more of a it's an area where just thousands of rows of product are available, and you can just basically just be at any of those at any point in time, and you can choose out. You can learn information about the IPs and the entertainment properties that they have, and you can buy things on the site, and you can use that to guide you to where in the store those items might be. You can get things shipped. Basically, though, it just looks like a retail store, except one that goes on to the horizon. So I don't know if you have like a large doorway that just opens up into that, or if for you just have like a little box that you walk up to and touch and move into the other one, or how that looks. Or if you want, if you're looking,
using first cyber deck in the Matrix, so like brings it up again and then can just flash to a different node.
Okay. So, okay. And now what are you trying to do? You're trying to find information on this building. You're trying to find detailed information on how to get to that floor, but you're not doing it from this building. So you're trying to find either some publicly available corp servers, or are you trying to find public records? What are you trying how are you trying to get this information?
I was thinking about finding like the either like security company or construction company. Maybe both, so you can get like like this elevator, or, information like that, or also like what kind of security they have in there, and just find like the easiest point of entry.
Sorry, I don't know if you're hitting your mic or someone's hitting the mic or what, but I'm getting a lot of like really loud noises.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, it might be from Whisper. Okay.
That was me.
No. Okay. Yeah, because I was just getting a lot of over your voice, so I couldn't really hear part of what you said.
So he's going to just find public records quickly on the construction company, the security company.
Okay. Go ahead and roll your research then.
I'm gonna look over my moves because I think I might have like a bonus to it or something.
Mm-hmm.
One second. And am I acting in accordance with my intel, since I know it's on the 97th floor and I'm just finding how to get there?
Right. I was just trying to decide if we would say that or not. Yeah, go ahead and act. Yeah, do a +1 for that.
Okay. So I'll take forward. That's what it was. Sit. Oh, I'm going to research. I don't know if I'm in a secure database though.
Yeah, no, right now you're looking through public records, so that wouldn't be a secure database.
Okay, so not yet. Alright, so research.
So you have... Oh, I should ask this now. What programs do you currently have loaded?
I have Sift, and I was going to ask you, because I was thinking about changing it. I don't know what the hell Firewall does. If it doesn't do anything really important, I want to put it in Stealth, because that seems like a more usable ability with the Trace and so on.
So Stealth is against Trace, like you just said. Firewall... If ice or something else tries to damage your programs, Firewall will you can use that like armor against damage to your program, and then Hardening protects against damage to you. Like if ice is trying to, like black ice is trying to actually physically hurt you as a person connected and try to lock you in place, that's where hardware or Hardening is an armor against that type of attack.
Okay, so I'll leave it. I have Defend, which is +2 Firewall. I have Sift, and I have Eject. Or the jack out.
Okay, 1 second. Sorry. Hold on. Okay, so you were... Alright, so say that again. Which ones do you have loaded?
Defend, Sift, and Eject.
Defend, Sift, and what was the third one?
Eject.
Eject, got it. Okay. But yeah, Sift will be once you're actually doing that in a secure... you know, if you're getting a +1 to searching in a secure database, why would you not get a +1 to searching in a non-secure database? I would say that you could use Sift on this, because this will allow you to weed through... Well, you know, okay, never mind. Because you're looking for very specific data, and you know exactly how to search for it in this, it doesn't really... You don't need Sift to do that. because it's easy to find. When you're searching for pay data, you're just looking you're looking at a whole lot of data for things that happen to match, like something that's useful. In this case, you actually already know, so yeah, it doesn't apply. Not that it mattered.
Yeah, thank you.
So you rolled like a 10 plus 2 plus 1, so I think you're good. So what questions are you asking? Or well, you have a hold 3.
Let me find the sheet for that again. For research, and this is just for public records. So,
You also take intel.
yeah, and because of my neural interface, I take another intel.
2, okay.
So 2 intel, and I get to ask 3 questions. So I'm going to say, where would I find the best place to upload the payload?
Okay.
And do I have to ask these questions? Because I'd rather not.
Yes. So when you research, you're asking the question. So the first thing you need to do is, what was the question you were originally trying to find?
I was basically just going to search like construction, like what construction company and what security company made everything, and look up schematics for things and trying to find a weak spot.
Okay, so which question was that? So that's how you're doing it. What is the question you're trying to solve, Kit?
Where would I find the best place to jack in? And
Okay.
where would I find the easiest place to infiltrate and get into floor 97?
So the way research works, you roll it, you ask the question, and you get an answer to that question no matter what. But based on the roll, that defines the other thing. So in this case, you'll also get to ask a follow-up question from that list, and you take intel. And then it sounds like you take another intel, right?
Right.
So you're going to get 2 intel from this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So then the first question that you were asking, the original question, that was where would I find the best place to jack into the 97th floor?
Right. Or not the 97th in general, but just to upload the payload.
Okay. Well, looking through this data, you find a number of data center or areas that look like they were designed to host data centers. It seems like about every 10-ish floors, there is a large portion of the floor devoted to a data center. And some of those, like the 97th floor, is that plus some. The 97th floor actually has some additional space that seems a little bit more than what you would need for a basic server room, but it looks like, just from collating this with the data that you got from EDC, you assume that a lot of that space is for cooling. So, like cooling of those machines. So the about every 10th floor would be a spot that you could tap into something. You could probably get close enough to get wireless access to the server room at that level. You don't know what would be in those server rooms, and you don't know which of those would be localized and which of those would be public. But you do know that.
Can I use my intel to find out?
Yes. Let me think about how. So yes, but how do you find out? Like, you can use it, but you have to describe what it is that you're doing that lets you find out this information.
I still have a follow-up question as well, don't I? So can't that be it?
Yes.
Like, I'm not sure what's in the rooms or if they're local or public, so I want to find which one is public that I could access remotely without having to go into the server room.
Okay. What I'm thinking. So the information you have already lets you know that the 97th floor is probably the best place to get access to the network that you need to put this data in. So I think that this is going to end up being the same. If you ask this question this way, it's going to be the same answer. The 97th floor is probably the only place that you can access this. What you might actually be trying to get at is schematics for the 98th, 97th, and 96th floors to see within that location where the best path and spots to do this would be. Does that make sense?
I was talking about the floors every 10 up. Like,
Uh-huh.
you made it seem like it might be a little bit harder, but it'd be a little bit sneakier to get in that way. So I was asking which one of those might be accessed remotely.
Okay. So, and the answer will actually just be none of them because I don't know how you would have figured this out. Okay, so you got access to the floor plans, but you also figured out who built the floor plans. In looking at those, you found some schematics on the way the electronics is wired, and it looks like the 97th floor is not actually physically connected to any of the other floors, and all the other ones have fiber and some other like higher level wiring that we don't even know about used to connect them to the main core, but the 97th floor looks like it's completely isolated.
Okay, so what was the point of the floors every 10 then? I'm confused.
There's other data centers there. They don't really seem like they're going to help you with this particular job. They are publicly available information because there's a lot of information in here, and every 10 floors, like, probably they're related to whatever the function of those floors are. They might be related to security. They might be related to other aspects of the building. But as far as trying to access whatever's on the 97th floor, that floor does seem to be isolated.
Okay, so I misunderstood. I would have asked a different question. So he's still interested by that for pay data and so on. What would be the best floor to, like, what would be the best way to get pay data from one of those floors? And I'll use Intel if you need me to.
Okay, so I mean, any of those floors, there's probably useful information on them. They're all public. They're all not necessarily fully public. There's probably firewalls in place that prevent them from being just something you could hit from outside, but you could probably break through the firewalls from outside. But any one of those could have pay data, and each one supports different divisions within the building. So,
I mean, like, what's the best way to get there? Like, to get to the server room so I can hack it. Like,
okay, and yeah, that would be trying to get the plans for like the 96th, 97th, 98th floor, the areas around there. Is that what you were trying to get?
I'm still talking about the pay data room.
Okay, so
Like, are those guarded or are those empty, or is that something I could sneak up in?
So to walk this back a little bit, where would I find the first where would I find was on the server room itself, and that you found that question. Wait, what was the first question? Where would I find
The best place to jack in, and you said one of the smaller rooms, but those didn't have anything to do with the main mission. So I wanted to know.
Yeah,
what would be
no.
the best way to like infiltrate that and actually get in there with my follow-up question.
Okay, so that wasn't actually. I think you ended up asking 3 separate questions, and you were mixing up the answer I gave for each of them. So the initial question, where would I find the best place to hack into like the server level from the 97th? You found some schematics and realized that the 97th floor is walled off. There's no connectivity between it and the other floors. So you realize that there are server rooms. There's a lot of server rooms, but the 97th one, the best place is going to be like a nearby floor, either on that floor or nearby. Your follow-up question was what?
What's the best way to infiltrate some of these minor server rooms for extra pay data?
Okay, so, and that would be finding a way onto those floors, basically the same way you would do it on the 97th floor. Just choose the floor that you wanted to access, and you maybe have a couple lists of which departments are in each, so you might know that if you're looking for some information on people to blackmail or something, then you might go to HR. Or if you're looking for something, you might go to the R&D department. If you're looking for scripts for upcoming movies, you might go to the writer block or something like that. So depending on which one you could choose, but really there could be paid data on any of those. And to get to those, similarly to the 97th floor, those you could actually access from almost any of the other floors, because all these floors have wiring in common. So there may be firewalls between them, so it might be easier to get at the particular place from its floor, because you could probably bypass some of the security, the matrix security, but you actually could get to any of this from anywhere in the building, other than the 97th floor.
Okay. I guess I'll have to wait to talk to Whisper. I'm going to jack out and meet with Whisper because I'm guessing it's probably getting close to time.
Yep. Okay. So you drop out. So do you just it's easy to disconnect. So you kind of, how do you jack out? What does that look like when you jack out?
I just kind of like get beamed up like Star Trek style. And
Okay.
I just kind of it all feels the same, but I'm just back in my actual body.
Right. All right. Whisper, you have just basically carefully backed out of the room with your hands in front of you, like, nothing to see here. So what are you doing?
Well, I guess I'm just washing my hands, as I would say, and I would try to make contact with Trash Man.
Okay. So you headed to the bathroom on the 3rd floor? Or there were also
was
bathrooms
he?
available in the reception area?
I guess the reception area.
Okay. So you're still within the reception area and you're going to the bathrooms that are in that area. Okay.
I'll go to the bathroom in that area, and I'll just probably text him what came up on my end.
Okay.
As I read that over and like what he heard, I'll say, "You should get out of there now."
Should I, though?
Well, it sounds like they're coming to start some trouble. I've learned a bit of information myself that we could regroup and act on.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I'll try to go back to the van and replace my disguise kit with a different persona.
I'm going to say that maybe there's a little bit more for me to learn in the Matrix. I don't know if he wants to meet me back here and continue to look around after he changes his disguise, or if he just wants to leave.
Well, you can just drop me a message if you need anything. I still gotta do my own investigation.
Okay.
All right. As you're heading out, roll a. I'm trying to decide what this would be. Roll an act under pressure, maybe. Yeah, act under pressure. Whisper.
I have a synthetic nurse that could allow me to get bonus, but depends on the situation. What am I
No.
acting under pressure for?
No, it wouldn't apply here.
Oh, okay. Wow, my rolls are so bad.
Wow. 2, 4, 5. Okay. So with a 5, let me think about how that plays out. Okay, with a 5. All right. So as you're going out, you notice that there are, like, on the way up you hadn't really caught them, but you notice people who seem to be paying more attention to you than you would have expected, and they're generally wearing nicer clothes. They kind of don't stand out that much against all the other people, but they're wearing suits, and while some of the people in here are touristy and some of them are businessmen wearing suits, the way that these people move kind of stands out to you, and you realize that you think they're watching you, and every once in a while you see one like kind of reach up to his ear and tap it and talk mutter under his breath. So as you're working your way out, you notice that more and more. How do you react to that?
I would use my cyber ears to listen in on what they're saying in their comms as I'm passing by.
Okay, so in general, like the common theme is the ones that actually note. Like sometimes they aren't looking at you and they're just general chatter, like no sign or not seeing anyone matching that description. At times, the one or two that actually looked at you and kind of they as soon as they saw you and saw you seeing them, they kind of tried to look more nonchalant. But you would hear them saying, "I think I may have sighted targets." And one of them said sighting confirmed, and that's what they're. So you definitely get the distinct impression that they are trying to track you.
So they're not really gonna do anything about it. So I'll just keep proceeding to the van.
Okay, and you do, as you notice, you actually notice in passing, you think to look up, and you notice that along the ceilings, occasionally you see cameras panning the room, and every once in a while it seems like one of them is tracking along the same path that you're following. You don't really know if it's tracking you or if it's just its standard sweep across the room, but you notice that. Okay.
Are there cameras on the parking lot where the van is parked?
As you make your way down the street, you just in general, there's street cameras that you don't know who has access to. In general, it's usually local police, not necessarily business megacorps, but some megacorps have probably tied into access to some street cameras. So you don't know which of these cameras they see, but most of the street posts have cameras watching the crowd, as well as the traffic on the street. When you get to the garage, you do notice that there are cameras at various points in the garage.
Can I'll message Trash Man about it. Possible surveillance going on. Can you find a way to disable the ones in the parking lot?
So on your way out, so as he's going out, as you're doing your research, right as you're dropping out, you get a ping for Trashman. You get a ping from Whisper, and it sounds like this is right after actually he informed you about the details of what he had heard. And as he's working his way out, he asks you that. This is before you actually got to the garage. Then you've asked this a little before that. So what's your response, Trashman?
I don't think that TYB is involved in civil parking structures and street lights and the like. I think we'll be okay for now.
Okay. So do you go into the garage with that assumption? So as you get near the garage, I guess you see that and you ping him then. Do you continue in, assuming that he's correct?
Will there be a moment where the cameras won't look and I get in the van?
I mean, is there? It's not like it was a TYB parking structure.
Oh, so we're kind of far away.
It was a block and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no TYU branding here.
Just out of prudence, I'll just wait for a timing to do so.
Okay, so some of them are sweeping, and you try to avoid those. There are some of those those cones that kind of hide, not cones, domes that kind of hide, making it less obvious where the camera's actually focused. But some of them are just out and sweeping. So you kind of time it. You head into the van and you swap out. Now, they aren't necessarily aware of who you are, but they, I believe, are a little bit more on guard after that. Let's see. I'm trying to decide if that's going to advance the legwork clock at all, or if this should just be part of your previous roll.
He didn't do anything extra, but they might. I don't know why him leaving would alert him more.
Yeah, he did work his way out. He wasn't there when they showed up, and they saw him leaving when he was going to be confronted. So, and he did fail a roll. But yeah, okay, I'm not going to advance that clock.
I am gonna 2 rolls.
Yeah, I am gonna. That is gonna bite you at some point, though. So that happened, and they are aware of it. But I will not use that to advance the clock. Okay, so you make it into the van and you tear off the synthetics that were yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. What do you do?
I try to remember one of the faces within the office building. No, I'll just go for a normal face. Put the synthetic skin over my face and start spraying. And it starts to form.
Okay.
And do a second round.
All right. Okay, so and then you change that up and you start heading back in. It takes you about 10 minutes to do the full to get in, get back out, and you head back in. While that's happening, Trashman, what are you doing?
For starters, while I know that Whisper's away, I'm gonna start trying to. I'm gonna go find someone like a merchant or someone running a store, and I'm gonna say, how far up are pedestrians allowed to explore this beautiful building you work in?
Okay, who is it you're approaching?
Just anyone working in a shop.
Okay, so just one of the shop employees. Okay. All right, you approach a guy who's working in one of the shops. It's an IP on I don't know. I'm not gonna even go there. Some TV show that's on it streams. The live streaming time is sometime midday, but he pretty much says he actually starts talking up the show for a second, but then as you ask your question, he's like, "Oh, well, I mean." The building's open to the public up to the 3rd floor. Beyond that, only employees are allowed. And then he starts kind of bringing your attention over to this shelf over here that has these figurines that relate to the show.
I just thank him and leave.
Okay, he continues talking at your back, and he's like, "Hey, but okay," and then he finally just gives up on it as you walk away. Okay.
I'm going to walk up to the 3rd floor and go to the bathroom because I got IBS.
Okay. So
and I'll jack in again and see if I can access a node from where I'm at in the matrix.
okay.
You said that those public ones were kind of accessible throughout the building, so I'll see if where I'm at will work.
Right. And turns out, I mean, you have access to the public net, but as far as the ones in this building, like direct access, you are out of range. It looked like from the schematics, the first one was on the 10th floor, and apparently 7 floors is too much. You could probably use the public net to try to work your way into the corp from that angle.
What would that look like?
Well, that's a good question. Right, from where you are, you don't know, but it looks like they have a main corporate presence, a public corporate presence, and from there you assume you could probably find a firewall that led you into some of their more back-end systems.
Okay.
But you don't know.
I haven't really hacked anything yet, so I'll give it a go and have some fun.
Okay. Let me think about how. So this is more. So we'll do this
like,
as.
With all the Matrix lingo and like, I guess I'm like having a hard time like visualizing it, so I'm just kind of learning with that.
Right.
It's such an abstract thing to me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. We'll actually use some matrix moves for this. So you're fully jacked in. We could do this as a research roll, or we could do matrix moves. So we're going to use some matrix moves. As you drop into... I see.
I think my directive might work as I'm trying to just hack in for pay data.
Right. Yeah. If you do something that advances the legwork clock, that'll definitely, or action clock, that'll definitely apply, and you'll mark experience at that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay, so you're trying to... So just out of curiosity, this is something your character would do. He would actually just start digging in for pay data before actually worrying about the mission itself.
He figures he has 5 days, and they're not like too alerted. They might think he's just some random hacker man, and it's kind of his occupation. So yeah, it's something he would definitely do.
Okay. So you get settled. You get uncomfortably settled onto the in the stall that you're in, and you jack in. You drop into your local node, the familiar streets. You walk to the end of the street. And how did you get into the other? Oh yeah, you just kind of search for it. So you do a quick. You pull up your interface. You do a search for TYB's systems. You find it. And as you kind of beamed up and beamed back down in front of it, you're beamed down in front of what looks like this headquarters, but on a much bigger scale. You're in front of a building that almost looks like an obelisk, and there's a big front door, and on one side there's a front door, and on a front door there are hundreds of just it looks like sometimes it's people, sometimes it's avatars of people, sometimes it's completely abstract things going in and out. They're moving in. You recognize that as just public logins, public access. But you also, because you're looking for something different, you also notice that over on the side of the building, there's a much smaller entrance, and there's still a stream of blocks going in and out that, but it's not. They're very uniform, and they are different colors, but they're all just kind of passing in and out. So you recognize that as just data packets moving in and out within the system. What do you do?
And those are where the data packets?
What do you mean? They're over on the side, and they're going into a smaller entrance, and you recognize that as that's a privileged login, basically. And those data packets are. Some of them are logins, but most of them are just data from other systems being streamed into the system, and they happen to use the gates that also are used for login, but they're all ending up passing through the same level of security.
So my avatar is going to run up and jump on one of these data packets and try and ride it in and sneak through this secure system.
Okay. As you jump onto the data packet, you kind of jump on it. It wobbles as you jump on, and you work to maintain your balance. Which, behind the scenes, your brain is kind of abstracting this as you are trying to mask your identity as a data packet for the login. Roll a login roll.
What does that use? Mine?
Synth, unless you have something else that makes it use something else. Let's see, 9. Okay, so with a 9, you're in, but you choose 1. So you either get a +1 on your trace, ice is activated, an alert is triggered, or your access is restricted and you take -1 ongoing.
I'll take a trace because I have 2 stealth, and I think I can. Or no, I have 2 stealth. So I think once I get to 3, then I'm actually traced.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take 1 trace because I don't think that's too bad at this point.
Okay, so you've got a +1 trace. I'm going to mark that as a -1, just so we have it. Okay. While he's doing this, Whisper, what are you doing? So you've just come out of the van,
going
you've come up
back
the
in.
garage. Okay, you're heading in.
I intend to go in the elevator that just leads to floor 97, but I'm not actually going to exit the elevator. I'm just going to stay in there, look busy.
Okay, so you don't know where that elevator is. You haven't actually seen any elevators. In the reception, there was the desk. There was a wall behind her which blocked off view of the rest of the floor. So you assume that likely the elevator would be behind reception.
Alright, so can I just walk right in the back? Can I observe first?
Walk right in where?
Towards the wall behind. The wall is kind of hiding the view.
So walk into reception, past the woman, and behind it?
Or I can't. Can I just freely walk in, or do people get held up?
Well, I mean, you haven't tried. It's the very front entrance. They try to make as friendly as possible, so there's no obvious security. There's just the receptionist. But you would have to open the door, walk past her, like up to her and past her, and around the large wall with their big TYB logo, and into the back area of whatever's behind that wall. So do you want to go, you're going to the third floor and you're approaching the door to reception, which is slightly different than the door to customer service, which is if you're approaching, let me think about this. So you go up the escalators and you're in this big hall, and to the right and behind you are retail stores. In front of you is a large, just a wall, like half the floor is blocked off, and there's one door with TCY or TYB and some other signage around that you can enter, which is where the receptionist was. And to the left, there's an area that's for customer service. So there's another, it's a little bit more open, and there's like a stall available for customer service. So you want to walk through that doorway into reception and past the receptionist and behind the wall that she's in front of?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you walk up. As you're going, you still do occasionally, now that you've known to look for it, you're noticing some men and women who are in suits, and occasionally, like, kind of scanning the room and watching, and occasionally tapping on their ears and mumbling under their throats. You hear them just basically saying that no, they haven't seen anything. So you continue walking. You walk in to reception, and okay, so you walk in, and what do? So you open the door. You see the woman sitting behind the desk. She looks up as you enter. What do you do?
Are there other people around?
In this room, no. I mean, once you came in here, she's basically the only person in here right now. This has been what? Since you were here last, this has been about 20 minutes?
Dang. Do I have to roll the infiltration thing, the covert entry?
Sure. So you're basically just going to try to walk onto the elevator and go up?
Yep.
Okay. Alright, so roll covert entry.
Can my synthetic nerves assist me?
Well, how are you trying to do this? That's the question. So so you're just gonna walk right.
So walk past way really fast or something.
So you're just opening the door and walking past her. And at this point, you've already opened the door, and she's already looked up and seen you, and she's about to talk. So she's looking at you because you've already come in.
I pull out my PDA phone and wave her off with a hand and look busy.
Okay, so you're pretending that you were like talking to someone, so you're kind of chatting, you're saying something about something. Okay. And you're just going to try, so you're going to walk right past her and behind the window. Okay. Go ahead and roll covert entry. And you can do, if you haven't done this yet, you do know. Good.
Oh, there we go.
Alright, so that's 8 plus 2, 10 on covert entry. Let me see. So on a 10, 1 second. So this is infiltrator. Okay, so for covert entry, on a 10 you gain 3 hold. You described infiltration, security mission. Okay. Alright. And you specialize in infiltration by appearing to belong in places you do not, hiding in plain sight. During infiltration, you have an opportunity to see or overhear information. After you have spent all of your covert entry hold infiltrating a secure All right, so you'll get intel after you use all the hold. You have 3 hold, and I think the first hold. I mean, are you gonna? If you want to get past her without her actually noticing, you're going to have to use one of these holds to do that.
Yes, I would.
So you use 1 hold, and you make it convincing enough that you're able to just walk past her. She looks up at you, and then you just look extremely busy, and you wave her off, and she nods, and then she goes back to what she's doing. So she doesn't give you another look. Okay, so you go around, and it's actually a fairly small area. So you go to the left. It opens up on both the right and left. So if you imagine a narrow room that has a wall right in the middle, but that wall doesn't go to either side, there's like about an 8-foot gap on both sides that you could walk through. That's what it looks like. And then that middle wall just has a giant logo, a giant that blue squinty face logo that TYB has, plus their whole Tenoshi Yellow Blast and the TYB stylized. So that's there. You just walk around and past it, and behind it there's 2 elevators, a button in between, and off to the side there is an emergency stairway door.
Right. So, would I be able to observe for a bit? Do I catch anything? It might be useful.
So you just want to hang out in this area and wait. Right now, you don't see anything useful. How long? You just want to hang here until either something happens or you get tired of waiting?
I guess I'd put a time frame of around 10 minutes. I'll just pretend I'm on the phone busy. Someone's gonna talk to me.
All right. So you will continue doing that, and you will watch. All right. Back to.
Also, I use my cyber ears if anything comes up.
Right. Okay. So you're actively listening. Got it. Oh, hold on. One thing I forgot. I'm about to jump back to Trashman, but I totally forgot to set up these directives. So first thing, we need to see copy. Okay, so mission directives, I need this to be on the token layer. Okay, so mission directives. When you accept the mission, mark experience. You have accepted the mission, so both of you go ahead and mark 1 experience.
Yep, got that.
Okay, now when you when you gain physical access to the 97th floor server room, mark experience. You have not done that yet, obviously, but you will. And when you drop the payload data, mark experience. Okay, so those are your mission directives. Are you able to see those?
Yes.
Okay. So now you actually know what you're supposed to be doing. And we have completed one of these, so we can... Why is this not working? Free end. That's awesome. That is not how I wanted that to look, but there you go. Alright. Now, back to the login. So you've just jumped on the data packet, and you've kind of tried to mask yourself as that, and that was... Okay, and you got a trace on you. So as you pass through the doorway, there's like a beam that's passing up and down, and as each data packet goes through, it scans down and back up. As it scans, as you're passing through, you're hoping to avoid that beam, so you try to move just out of the way as it comes down.
I
But
want to retro something really quick.
Okay.
I roll my console cowboy first. So
I'll be right back.
I roll
Sure.
mine. And I don't think I get any forward to that.
And technically this isn't retroing, this will happen immediately after you make the login, and since what I'm describing right now is your login, this would take effect immediately after that. So it's a perfect time to bring that up. It's not even retro.
Cool. So, well, I have a trace is why. I would be able to use my console cowboy to remove the trace, which would kind of be retro. Prevent a construct from triggering.
Got it. Okay,
an alert,
so
I guess. would kind of
yeah.
fall underneath that.
Go ahead and roll that console cowboy.
So I have hold 3, so I'll use one to not take that trace, just
Okay.
to be safe.
All right, 1 second. Why can't I find? You pretty much put everything from Console Cowboy in here, so I probably don't even need to see it, but where is Console Cowboy? Oh, duh, I'm looking at the wrong... It's not an infiltrator. Okay, Console Cowboy, that's... Yeah, when you connect to roll mine, it's exactly what you put in. Okay. Prevent a construct from triggering alerts. Increase your hold over compromised system. Yeah, and I would say that a trace is similar to an alert, so technically... Avoid an ice routine. Technically, I don't know if that would count or not, but I'm going to say it does regardless. Okay. So as you... Actually, so your trace is going to go away.
I'm back.
All right. So as you jump on... So the data pack is coming out. You pick one, you jump on it, and you kind of... You go through. As you're going through, you're seeing the scanning line go up and down in front of you. And you're kind of like... unstable on this data packet. You keep having to readjust your weight to keep from toppling over and falling as you're going in. As each data packet's passing through, it's getting scanned and then moves on. As you go in, you start being scanned, and as you scan, you kind of fall a little to the side, and you actually kind of tip to the side, and you catch yourself on the ground. As you're doing that, the scanning beam, which had been green, turns yellow, and it stops. And it starts slowly scanning up and down again. As you're doing that, you are able to just jerk just the right way, and you get back into the data packet, pull yourself off the ground, and you get your balance just in time. And as it's scanning, it slowly goes up and down, and you're able to just move out just far enough out to the side that it doesn't touch you as it's going past. And then it finishes its scan, goes from yellow to green, and then passes on. So you move on into the main system. As you... Go ahead.
Never mind. Say what you were going to say. Sorry, I'm kind of tired here.
Oh, okay. It's 2 o'clock, actually. We could stop there. Let's see. Map. Get rid of that.
I'm okay. It just kind of depends on what you guys are for. I just kind of had a brain fart was all. I was gonna say that I'm in like the main system, but I'm not in the 97th floor system, of course.
Right. Yes,
Okay,
you are...
So what does it look like when I get in there?
Okay. So as you get past the entry gate, the room opens up, and it's very much like, I don't know if you've ever seen really old VR systems, like where it's like the old wireframe Atari game Battlezone. It's like that, but with solid polygons. But all the data is flowing in, and then it's following separate tracks in different directions. And some of each one goes through a separate wall and a separate hole. And the colors, they're sorted by color, and each color tracks off a different direction. Like blue heads off to the left about 90 degrees, green heads off to the left maybe 40, 45 degrees. Basically, they all just split off and go different directions. Each of those directions you would be able to figure out where each goes. So if you know where you're looking, you can kind of decide which of those paths to follow and jump to a data bit that matches that color. Do you know where you're aiming?
I don't know what each color represents. Is that all I have to go on?
Well, if you know what you're aiming at, if you know what is your objective here? What are you trying to get to?
I want to find something that I can sell on the streets for a worthy price tag. Um, so maybe that's like ways to like modify your Tenoshi Yele Blast product and make it a little bit more high functioning, or something that they make that someone with some simple components could actually make themselves that works just as good. Or
Okay.
something that is black market that would be valuable.
So you recognize that some of these packets, there's brown ones, and they're going through, and you're quickly, as you're going through, is trying to isolate what the data packets are and what the areas they're going to are, and scanning the doorways to see if you can identify it. And you can tell that the brown ones are going towards what's basically the firewall, or the hardware subsystem. So that's the hardware department, the department that's responsible for creating of consoles and some of their more physical retail aspects of their technology. So would you want to get on that path?
I would, because I think there's a matrix thing in there where you can control a system, and you can even have it like an assembly line start making something, and I want to play with that. That sounds like it could be even more profitable than pay data in a way.
Okay. So you switch over to one of the brown packets, and you hop on that, and as you're going through, you recognize, it's almost like as it's going through the doorway, inside of the doorway there's a wall of fire. It's almost like it's going through an incinerator. You recognize that as the representation of a firewall that's blocking data that doesn't belong in that area from that location. So yeah, what do you? I assume you're going to try to compromise that firewall.
Yes, I'm not sure like how the avatar would make that look, but yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, what does that look like? So you'll have to figure that out really quickly.
I guess that
Actually, go ahead and roll your compromise security first, which is mind, unless you have something else.
So a 8.
8. Yep, 6 plus 2.
Meaning is going to draw out light and shoot the electronics that are, or just whatever's kind of shooting the flames out, trying to disable it, just shooting it with a pistol.
Okay. So as you shoot with your pistol, what comes out the end is like a line of ice, and it traces a path to the firewall, and it hits the area that's kind of ejecting the fire, and the fire like freezes all the way up and shatters as you're passing through it. And that does use up your hold. So your hold for that compromise was for the firewall, and you use it getting past it.
From Cowboy, you mean?
What? No, just your hold from compromise security. When you rolled the 8, you got 1 hold, and that hold lets you activate a security measure or deactivate a security measure.
Oh,
and,
gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
so you were able to do that with there.
Cool.
But that also means you don't have any further holds within the system yet.
Right.
Okay, but as you go through the area, you break through the ice and you move into an area that the look changes into, it looks like a large warehouse, a factory floor actually, and there's different areas. There's one area off to the side which it looks like a large cylinder filled with something. You can't even see what it is from here, but you can see a green glow coming off the top, and then there's also machines all over that are stamping and pressing and doing so. And then off to the right there's an area that looks like just a room full of whiteboards. So you can either just go to one of those representations or tell me your objective, what you're trying to find, and see if you can figure out where that...
We'll go to the whiteboards. I think I do have holds because I have console cowboy holds.
Mm-hmm.
So I can prevent an alert, avoid an ice routine. Have I compromised security? Is that what I just did, or did I manipulate it?
That's what you just did. You compromised security. And you used that hold getting through the firewall into this area.
Gotcha. So when would it be a scenario where I need to increase my hold?
If you wanted to do something else again, basically, like you would have to re-compromise security on this node to do more to compromise anything in here, which meant turning off an alert or something else related.
Yeah, so I'll go to the whiteboard area, I suppose. That sounds like what I'm looking for, like more data than physical sort of.
All right, so you kind of walk towards that area. You get off the data packet you're on. You walk towards that area, and as you're moving in, you realize that this subsystem is basically representing their research and development area for the hardware. There are various algorithms written out on whiteboards, and as you look, it's like there's an uncountable number of whiteboards. Like the more you look, the more they just appear. So basically, there's so much information here. If you were going to try to steal some algorithm, if you use your sift in here, you would probably be able to determine if there was something useful or not.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
And what does that look like?
Basically, I assume if I'm looking at all of these whiteboards, they're kind of like floating, and so she brings up her cyber deck to kind of like control them, and is like swiping her fingers, scrolling through all of the algorithms.
Okay, go ahead and roll that. Take +1 to ongoing to research or search for pay data. Okay, so search for pay data. Is that its own role?
I think it's research. I think it's a mind roll.
I think, okay, we'll get back to that. So you're in the middle of doing a sift in that room. Whisper, you have been standing in the room watching. Not much has happened. In the time that you spent there, you recognize that the door on the side, the doorway to the stairs has a sign on it that says emergency only, alarm will sound. And then there's been a couple people who have come down and gone up, but that's pretty much what you expect would happen with an elevator, but it's not heavy traffic. The time of day apparently isn't a time that a lot of people come and go. So you didn't really learn anything extremely important, except that, I mean, people use the elevator. And possibly, maybe one of them was saying something as they got off the elevator that you can use, which might be the intel that you picked up once you use all of your holds for covert entry.
Alright.
But
So,
that'll
can I
come up
just
later.
walk in the elevator? No problem.
Do you want to do that? You can go up and push. I mean, the button. Basically, people just walk up and push the button, and then they get on the elevator, and they push another button.
I'll try.
Okay. Okay. So you walk up to the elevator, and there is just an up arrow button. There is no other button really. There's just one button. It's an up arrow button. So you press that. And as you press it and pull your finger away, nothing happens. And you realize that people were actually holding it for a second or two. So do you want to do that? You hadn't really, until this second, you hadn't realized that there was a reason that they were doing that, but you're realizing that, yeah, they're holding the button for a second or so.
Do they have a bioprint scanner?
That might be an assumption that you're making. I mean, yes, that's an assumption that you start thinking maybe is going on. Nothing was making that obvious, but now that you pressed it once and nothing happened, you're thinking maybe there's more to it. Either a bioscanner or maybe they have some sort of implanted chip that reacts with the button. You're not sure yet.
Can I tailgate someone into the elevator?
Do you want to wait until someone comes up and try doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so you hang around there for maybe another 4 minutes before someone comes. There's a guy. Let me think about this. Okay, so there's a guy in a suit. He walks up. He walks past. He sees you standing there. You're still pretending to be on the phone as he's coming in?
I look stressed. I'll just pretend I look stressed out.
Okay. All right, so he walks up and he kind of gives you a glance to the side as he's coming up, and then he kind of ignores you, and he pushes the button. He holds his finger there for about 2 seconds, and then you hear a beep, and then door opens. He walks on, and you try to follow him right behind. As he goes in, he turns around. He says, "Hey, wait! You need to scan in too. Remember? I mean, you know the rules."
Oh, sorry. I walk out the elevator.
Okay, so you head back out, and then okay. So wait, you didn't say out loud anything. You just walked back out of the elevator saying sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then the door closes, and he goes up.
Dang. All right, so at least I know that I need to find a way to get in.
Yeah.
All right, can I inspect the emergency exit? Emergency stairs?
Yeah. And you kind of, while you were standing here, did, and basically it just looks like it's like a doorway, a normal size 6-footish, like 6.5, 7 foot tall door. Seems like it's a fire door. It has the bar across that you usually push to open. From the other side, on this side, it's like a twisting handle, one of those ones that you rotate to open. And actually, no. It's one of those bars on both sides. So on this side it's a bar, but there's a sign on the door that says emergency only, alarm will sound. Or fire alarm will sound.
Is there a maintenance room anywhere?
This is you only see the 2 elevator doors and this stair door here.
Alright, looks like I'm gonna have to use one of my holds.
Okay.
Covert entry.
Okay, so what are you doing?
I will bypass the system or guard.
Right. What is it? I'm assuming you're bypassing. Well, 1, what are you bypassing? And 2, what are you actually doing to do that?
So I'm thinking about the elevator. Is there any way, a possible jack for me to do it?
The elevator, you don't really have any way of bypassing that you know of right now. Maybe there's a way you could, but with what you know at this second, you don't have what you would need to bypass it. You're guessing that you...
In the elevator with him?
No, he got out of the elevator. The guy got in the elevator and went up.
Well, I mean, out of character, you could always get physical with someone and use their fingerprint.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty risky, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I got an idea. So, can I sort of assess what the elevator is? Is it like a bioscanner? Is it a chip?
You don't know. And let me think. Yeah, you don't... Let me think if you would have any way of knowing that. Yeah, right now you have no way of knowing that unless you have a trick that I don't know about.
Can I still communicate with him in the Matrix?
Right now you're...
Yeah, I'll tell him my situation.
If you're in the Matrix, you still have access to your text messages, so you could pop those up and access that from where you are, yes. Because you're still in direct contact with your node, you can at any point pop back into your Cyberdeck's node, unless there's ice preventing you from doing that. So you have full access to anything your Cyberdeck has access to as well, beyond just where the node that you're actively in.
So I'll just say to him, doing a little side business, be done soon.
Okay, I'll tell him about my current situation and say that I might need your help on this one because I can't seem to bypass the cyber side of things.
Okay, I'll tell him that I'll work on getting the elevator working for him.
Okay, so you're doing all this through text. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to finish my sift first, if that's possible.
Yeah, let me... I think actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to say that we'll call it for tonight and pick this up next week from here. So you are trying to get up the elevator, and you do have the emergency door too. So you probably, just out of character, you probably could have actually bypassed that alarm on your own. It's not so complicated that you would need biometrics or anything. You would be able to just use some materials that you have just to block a sensor and get through that one if you wanted to do that. But the elevator, you definitely would need his help, so he'll probably be able to help you out, especially from where he is right now. I think you probably have access to that elevator and you'll be able to find it from where you are. But yeah, I would say this is a decent stopping point. We can stop here and pick up from that point next week, and then I can figure out exactly how... Because my main problem is right now I don't know exactly how to actually... I could make it up, but I don't know the right way to deal with what you were trying to do. Oh yeah, the research, like figuring out pay data. I felt like there was a get pay data move somewhere, and I just have to find it. But otherwise, we'll use research. But no, research is actually not the right thing. But that'll give me time to figure out exactly how to mechanically handle getting that pay data.
No problem.
I was planning to kill someone just to get through the elevator.
Yeah, I was waiting to see where that was gonna go.
Because I was gonna follow someone outside the elevator and just follow him into an alley or something and kill him.
Oh wow, I guess that's one way to do
an
it.
autopsy.
That is a way, but yeah, Trashman might be able to actually help you out without that coming up. All right, so yeah, next week we can pick up from there and move forward, and I'll have a better idea of how to do this. This is actually my first run into a matrix system, so in this system, so I'm kind of making up as I go, but I think we got it pretty close to how it should be.
Yeah. I got my... Now that I have a little bit of it.
You got your what?
I really have to wrap my head around how to get through this.
Yeah.
It was a little confusing at first, but
The matrix stuff?
yeah.
I think one of the main things is if you just, in a lot of ways, just think about what you would do in that situation more than thinking about the moves, and the moves will kind of fall from that. And we can always figure out the mechanics. Just figure out what you as a character would be doing, and usually we can just follow up on that and figure out what happens.
Well, yeah, I just had no idea how to visualize the avatar and so on.
Yeah, me either. I need to come up. If I had known what we were doing ahead of time, I would have thought through like what the landscape would have looked like instead of having to make it up on the fly. I could have had something much more interesting than this if I had thought ahead of time. But when you're thinking on the fly, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just
Yeah, I think
make
it
something up.
worked fine. No worries.
Yeah.
You could
All
think
right.
of the Shadowrun thing, where you're hacking into a Chinese business, you have like Chinese temples in the Matrix.
Yeah, I needed to do that, and I was trying to do that quickly, but I was also trying to think of a really overly commercialized version of that, and I failed and just came up with like a really empty area. If you had gone into the public side, then it totally would have been themed much better. But the private side, I figured they didn't put much processing power into maintaining much of a theme or much of a look, and they just got more down to business. But yeah, if I had had time to plan it out, it probably would have been much more interesting. But that's fine. I mean, I gotta get used to making this stuff up on the fly anyway. I should just like brainstorm a whole bunch of possible things so that I have those to pull from in the future whenever I need to just like make something up. But it came out well enough. So as far as how this session ran, any feedback on things we should change, do differently for next week? Or is this going kind of the way you would expect?
It's going the kind of the way I would expect.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, so I think it's decent so far.
In a pre-made mission, things would go a little less time with me having to think of how things are going to occur, In this one, I'm kind of literally building the mission as we go, based off of what's happening. So I'm probably making a lot of mistakes on how this building would be laid out and how the city would exist and things like that, because I'm just having to be a world all at once. But I think I've got a pretty good view of what this looks like in my head. Hopefully that's coming across to you guys. I'm hoping I'm communicating that well enough that you're kind of getting a feel for what I'm envisioning.
I got a feel on the meat space. Like I'm like heavily dependent on what he can do. On Trashman.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, you should be dependent on each other. So now the next step is we have to figure out how you are able to get him up, because he's going to have to physically be there, unless you had taken something that allowed him to bridge the gap, and all you need to do is get that device close to the network, and he could use that device to piggyback. That's a possibility, but I shouldn't have actually told you that. You should have come up with that on your own. Otherwise, you'll have to find a way to get him physically up there through the same means that you're doing without getting noticed, which could be interesting too.
Not a good idea. We do have a piece of gear that we can spend on something, but we were talking about wingsuits. I don't know. We'll see.
So when things go south, we just use wingsuits.
That'll get you down, I guess. I don't. You have to figure out how to get up, but yeah. Of course, I don't know how well you're going to be able to use a wingsuit without having trained in wingsuit usage. That could be interesting. Or messy.
Parachute.
Zip line, I don't know. It's part of the training. We're the best.
Yeah, we are professionals.
Professionals, but I don't know that Trashman is a professional wingsuit user.
It's his hobby in his off time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
It's in his backstory. Come on.
And don't forget, one other thing that you can still do, especially during the legwork phase, is you can declare a contact, and that can be similar to what you were just saying, where yeah, his hobby was this. It's always been this. You can do that with a contact too, like someone that you just happen to know that you've just never actually made use of. You can actually make use of them.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, don't forget about that option. I don't know how that would help you right now, but it's possible.
We are still in legwork. We don't have to jump right over to action just yet, but it kind of seems like we're about to.
You're getting pretty close, since he's actually jumped into the building and he's working on trying to get his way up. Because once you actually physically get close, we'll likely jump to mission, because at that point, the chance of you getting caught. I mean, I think that would become the action clock, because yeah, once you've actually physically infiltrate in, I think that's beyond planning.
Okay.
Just trying to do surveillance up close. I want to see how far I can get. Not trying to risk too much. That's why I didn't talk to the guy in the elevator.
I think once you go into the building beyond biometrics, you've already gone beyond surveillance at that point. I think you already are doing infiltration.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because at that point they will notice, and if you come back later and try the same trick, you'll probably get caught immediately. So you professionally, you would know enough to know that once you do this infiltration, that's pretty much you're committing. I mean, it's possible you could come back later and do another thing, like especially if you found some way to prop a door open or find some way to allow for later access. But most likely, someone's going to notice, and the next time in would not be anywhere near this easy. So yeah, this is probably, I think professionally you would know that once you break the seal, basically you're committing. All right. So yeah, feel free to come up with it. If you have any questions over the week, feel free to mention it in the Discord channel, the OOC channel, I guess. And we will pick back up from this point next week at 11. Does that work for everyone, or is there any issues with that date?
So technically there are one more free spot in this one.
Oh, you mean as far as people? Yeah, I'm going to guess that Adir is actually not going to show up anymore, so probably there's 2 open spots, but he might show up next week. So he's a questionable, but my gut feeling is he's out. So yeah, we probably have 2 to 3 open spots.
All right.
Which might be kind of hard to fill like next session unless we both declare contacts and the contacts are our new group, kind of.
Yeah, I could find a way to mix it in. I have a few ways that I could actually make that work. In fact, it could be a separate team who's trying to infiltrate at the same time that happens to run across you, and you end up like almost competing with each other, trying to get the mission goal completed. There's a lot of ways we could mix that together.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to have a couple more people, but at the same time, I think the duo mission like could be kind of it's already pretty interesting, and I think like me and Whisper all work well together in particular.
Yeah. Yeah. If you get into a firefight, it would be useful to have some of the heavier classes, but the cool thing about this game is as long as you guys have a weapon, you're still pretty lethal and still pretty. You can hold your own in a firefight for sure. Just not like a killer could, but you can do pretty well.
Yeah, I think as far as gear goes, like a remote access thing is pretty choice. I feel like that's something I would like maybe already have in a way.
What do you mean?
Like like something that slides out of my cyber deck that I could give to Whisper, and like you said, like he can plug me in to turnable.
Right, like a piggyback node.
Yeah, so he can infiltrate for me, and I don't physically have to do it. That's much more my style.
Right, and that might be what you convert your gear into. Which again, I probably shouldn't tell you, but if I were playing as either of you, that's probably what I would do. I would probably to convert that gear into some sort of piggyback node that I could remotely hack from.
Yeah, and I mean, like, as of right now, like, I don't mind that. I don't think it's, like, meta or anything, just because I'm so new to all of this and don't, like, really know. So, don't feel like you just gave, like, a big spoiler or something, because I probably would have never thought of anything that creative anyway. And that's kind of, it seems like an essential piece of gear for me.
Although that's powerful enough that I probably wouldn't let you have it all the time. I mean, I'm not going to say you can't use it all the time, but it would probably end up getting damaged or burnt out, or something might happen to where you don't always have access to it.
Hardware decay.
Yeah. Or it could be a one-shot thing that like in this case, EDC provided this to you, so it probably will burn out and first use. But that doesn't mean you can't buy your own version of it, and one that they haven't already hacked to be literally like disposable and make use of it later, because it is definitely a very useful thing.
Yeah, I do have the Microtronics workstation as well that I could like try and make my own, like spend some cred in making things himself is kind of his way.
Yeah, and we can work out. Basically, the best thing to do is think about from a character perspective what you would actually try to do, and then just try to do it, and I'll tell you how that actually works out. And maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. Probably it sounds like that would be feasible. But if you're making it yourself, it probably would be something that costs a little bit and wouldn't be completely reliable. Like, it would be pretty good.
That's what I took, like, with my neural implant. Like, that was something that he made himself, didn't install himself, but I think it has, like, the substandard tag on it.
Right. And that substandard is probably because it was the substandard because he made it, or because of the street doc he did, or was it a combination of both?
The procedure wasn't an issue. It was based, like, all of his components are. He's the trash man. It's components he finds,
Right. Okay.
Repurposes and puts back together. So just it's good construction for someone to be able to make cyberware themselves, but it's still shoddy nonetheless.
Right. Yeah, so probably that'll end up you can spend like a lower amount of cred to build things if you have the time to do it, but they're going to have some negative aspects to them. So yeah, that'll be good. That'll be useful. And painful at the same time. It'll make some interesting situations because they won't always work right, or they'll fail at the worst possible times, or yeah, that can be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Anything else? Any questions you have before we go, or we good?
I'm set.
I'm set too.
All right. So again, if you have any questions or any issues with making it next week, just mention in Discord or in the Roll20 forum for the game. And otherwise, I will see you next week.
Cool.
All right. Thanks.
All right, man.